Like, what's the dealio? We'll give you the 411. Take out your old flip phones and dial 90. We're back for day 2 of the Fixed Ops Roundtable event. And our first caller is DaBomb.com. Please welcome our host, Vanessa Collins.
Good morning. I'm Vanessa Collins from Northwood University. It is time to lean into that 90s nostalgia. Unbox your old Beanie Babies, grab some Dunkaroos, and slap on your slap bracelets as we kick off day 2 of the Fixed Ops Roundtable's 90s Rewind event. Get the 411 by using the chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen. Just be sure to select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. It's a Fixed Ops full house. Learn what it's like to grow up in a Fixed Ops household with our next segment, Fixed Ops, the next generation.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We hear so much about the superstars of Fixed Ops all over the event. Ed Roberts is with us today, and so is Marco Zwanenburg. We have some special guests, and before we introduce them, Marco, give us a little of the backstory and how this panel came to be.
Absolutely, Ted. I thought it would be fun to shed a little bit of light on what is it like growing up in a Fixed Ops family. And I kind of wanted to go with daughters, because for sons, it's a little easier maybe to, get some tricks and tips from dad and work in the auto industry. But it would be really interesting to hear, what have you girls picked up growing up from parents in the auto industry, like people skills, trouble solving, or that you just say the auto industry like, I see what it did to my dad. So it'd be really interesting to see what the next generation has to say and think from the auto industry just by observation.
And Ed, anything you'd like to add to that?
I'm curious to see what some of the answers are. I'm looking forward to this. This should be fun.
All right. So, ladies, if you would introduce yourself. Jean Ing's my daughter. Jean, I'll ask you to go first if that's okay. And then Emily, and then Reyna.
Sure. My name's Jean. I'm my dad's daughter. I'm 22. I work at Quantum 5, and I also work part-time with my dad at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, writing some transitions for these wonderful events. And I'm happy to be here. Love to be on the After Dark show.
And a little bit about education, maybe in where you grew up and where you went to school.
Yeah, I grew up in Buffalo, and I graduated from college 2 years ago at this point. At SUNY Purchase, I went to school for screenwriting, which is creative writing for film and everything. So most of my experience is in film and creative writing. So I definitely did not expect to dabble in fixed ops or automotive or anything along those lines. So it was definitely a surprise coming out of college, but it's been a welcome one. And it's been nice to be able to get my own experience within the industry that my dad has been a part of.
Emily Roberts, nice to meet you. We've heard and seen so much about you on social media. Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Emily. I'm Ed's daughter. I'm 20 years old, and I currently work as a general manager at Canopy Road Cafe in Tampa. I grew up in St. Augustine, and I went to school there for 1 year and then moved here just recently. I currently go to HEC, so I work full-time and I go to school part-time.
Excellent. And Reyna, we've heard so much about you from your dad and speak so highly of you. And welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Reyna. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Ted. I'm currently 16. I go to Naples High School. I'm enrolled in the JRTC program. I work part-time at Publix, and I've had for that job for almost 3 years now. And I plan to enlist in the Navy by the end of the year.
Wow. Excellent. And give us a little bit of the backstory on that. That's a big decision to enlist in the Navy. But I know you've had your heart set on something like that for a long time.
Oh yeah. Ever since I think it was like the year after COVID, I was in 7th grade when COVID hit and lockdown and everything, and I just had something click in my head that I wanted to serve the country and that I wanted to be in the Navy, and my heart's just been set on the Navy. So I enlisted in ROTC my freshman year, and I'm going into my 4th year of ROTC for my senior year.
Excellent. Well, ladies, very nice to meet you, although not in person here on the roundtable, and to learn a little bit more about you. Ed, you and I were talking before we got started, and no secret, Marco, Ed, the automotive industry is very demanding. A lot of hours. We work retail mornings, noon, and night, and weekends. And Ed, I know you wanted to ask a question from a time standpoint. You know what that's been like for the ladies.
Well, I'm curious to see what their thoughts of it is, because ultimately the automotive industry and any retail industry is very demanding on hours, and that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with family, because sometimes it pulls away from family. And I was certainly trying to be very intentional about not doing that, but I want to hear it from the other side and see what they thought on the other side. So if we'll start with you, Emily, if you want to answer that question, as far as the availability of if I was there, or if I wasn't there when I needed to be, or whatever else. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say it was very demanding. I remember being a kid going to extended day in the morning and then extended day at night, because that was just what we had to do. But I never questioned it, because whenever I was with my dad, it was just us, and it wasn't work. It wasn't anything else. He put me first in so many different cases that I never had a doubt that he wasn't there for me at any point in time. And if anything was to happen, I know he would be there. So yes, it was very demanding, but we made it work, and I had no doubt that we had our time.
And Emily, if I may, as a follow-up, do you have brothers and sisters?
I do not. It's just me.
I believe everybody here tonight or today is Gene. You know brothers and sisters. Well, actually, yes, you do have a brother on mom's side. Yep. Okay. Gene, tell us about your experience in growing up.
Yeah, I remember a lot of you traveling. That was kind of the big thing, especially when I was younger. But I know that whenever you did come home, the time that you would spend with us would be extra special and great quality time. I know, I remember going to a Bison's game with you, which was the Buffalo baseball game or baseball team. and when I was younger, and it was like one of the first like baseball games that I've ever been to, and I just remember like having such a nice time together. And even sometimes when you would go on like work trips, I think I got to come with you for maybe NADA. I can't exactly remember what the event was as a kid, but I just remember I got to meet all the different people that you worked with. I remember there was a very kind lady that gave me bubbles, and I loved that. So yeah, it was very busy and very demanding, but I think it just meant that the time that we did get to spend together was even more special and even more intentional.
Reyna, let me come to you because your dad's been an automotive technician as a career, and that's a lot of hours there, and that's very demanding on him. What's it been like growing up with that?
Well, I haven't really known him outside of the automotive industry. Sure, he's changed from Mercedes to Naples Luxury, but it's always just been come home at around the same time. It's always been the same. It's always been take care of yourself or have someone else take care of you. But pretty much every day there's a funny work story to come home to, or just a ridiculous customer service story. And it's been like that pretty much my whole life. And it's almost like it hasn't changed even depending on the job that he's working on. So.
And Marco, Reyna helped build that image of you as the technician with that famous photograph she
Exactly.
took. Tell us
The
about
world
that.
Yes, that was funny. It was way back in the history of the Roundtable. You guys were doing a little live show, I believe, or a little recorded show on a Monday afternoon, and I was asked to make something like a minute with Marco, just a quick tip. So Reyna and I went to the shop on a Saturday morning, and I wanted to make a quick recording of me pointing something out, but there was so much noise that it couldn't be cleaned up. But that's where the picture of me with the wrenches like that. And so Reyna took that picture. She was like, oh my God. And that became like, really, that picture went a long, long way. But yeah, she did that.
Reyna, is that job hard on your dad? He, like you said, he's got a lot of stories. I've heard some of them. I'm sure you've heard a whole lot more. With all the work that he has to do in and around and underneath cars and so on.
I'd say it's definitely hard on him. I would probably physically, mentally, probably more physically though, with all the cuts and the bruises coming home and banging your knuckles on everything. But it's because it's a hard job to balance. You have to be able to have good customer service and not be rude, but also have a physical matter with it and know what you're doing. So I definitely say it's been harder on his hands though with all the
Emily, I'm curious, was there ever a time that you can remember when your dad was not Ed Roberts in the automotive business, when that he doesn't work in a dealership? Can you remember anything like that?
No, because I feel like my dad's always been in the automotive industry in one way or another. Has been with Bozard now for over 10 years. And so before that, it was another dealership. And it's always just been, there's always been differences in between every place that he's gone. He's always grown and done more and taken on more. But that's what I've known. And when you grow up to know that, you don't know any different.
I know he was excited in 2020 when they were building, and then they had the grand opening of the new service department, and there was a new restaurant involved. We heard about that for the first time. Yeah. But Emily, do you feel that there's something special about Bozard Ford Lincoln that's different than other dealerships from what you see and what you've been experiencing?
I've always noticed and I admire about it, and I take it into my own way of doing my job. It's just how he takes care of his employees, and everybody there is taken care of very well, and they all appreciate it so much. And there's people that I know who I still go into the dealership and I know them by name. I give them hugs, and they're just people that I've grown close to and had relationships with, because there's just such a good balance between everybody that works there. And I think that's great.
Jean, You write for the automotive industry. You write for people who work in the industry. I believe salespeople and service advisors. Tell us about that, and then, you've been in and around the industry for a long time, Gene. Tell us about your trip when you went down to Beaux-Arts last year.
Yeah. I have been working with Quantum 5 for a little over 2 years now. And a lot of what I do is writing for their app, which involves training for service and sales folk. So a lot of me learning what to even put into the app came from asking a million questions to my dad. I think the first 2-3 months there, every day I would ask him questions about what codes in multi-point inspection, just anything you can think of. I asked him, and after some time there, my dad invited me to go with him in the Roundtable to visit Beaux-Arts Ford in Lincoln, and that was honestly probably my first time going into a dealership and really getting to see everything in a very long time. And just not only were they so welcoming, but everyone there, you could tell, just enjoyed working there and really had such a great community and energy to the dealership. And it was just nice to be able to see how the technicians worked and how they kept their stations clean and organized, and just meet everybody that is involved. So it was a really great experience. And honestly, it definitely, I feel, informed me a lot about what goes on behind dealership doors. Yeah.
Reyna, do you know that your dad, Marco, helped start something special in the automotive industry? Because we talk about dealerships like Beaux-Arts, but they're not average dealerships. These are the best of the best, and he's helped put a spotlight on those dealerships. Reyna, your thoughts about being involved in something like that?
It's just amazing to see how this has improved over the years, because at first it was just a concept of how he could make awareness about this and how he could bring a lot of dealerships to light and what goes on behind the service doors. And just seeing it grow over so many years is just it's amazing how many people have picked up on it and how many people's minds he's changed, and just the awareness that he spread about it.
And your dad is not the if there's such a thing as the average technician. He's something extraordinary. He's when he talks about the business, Reyna, he gets the attention of all kinds of people in the industry, because they've never heard the perspective that he is willing to share. And he's pointed out that in the past maybe people haven't asked the technician for their perspective, but now they're more important than ever. Reyna, your thoughts on, the importance of that job, and making sure vehicles are safe and, fixed properly and repaired and maintained?
Oh, it's definitely a safe job, because I think I remember a few years ago that my dad actually told me that, what about the ambulances and the fire trucks? How are they going to get anywhere if there's not mechanics and technicians to work on them? How are you going to save people like that? How are you going to... And the importance of everyday cars, someone's Range Rover, my car actually has had to be fixed several times by Mastermind over here. But it's definitely important to make sure that you have a well-functioning car, and for someone that actually cares and doesn't just care about, oh yeah, let's just do a small oil change, I only care about the money. No, you want someone like him who actually cares about the safety of the car and safety of the driver and just the overall function of the vehicle.
Ed, that's a big responsibility we have in the industry, with people like Marco and your peers that that look up to you, Ed, as well.
Well, like Reyna said, the responsibility, the pride that Marco puts into it, the pride is where that comes from. It's not just a job; it's about what it brings to our world. It's not only that our girls are out driving around with other people with the cars that we work on. It's about keeping them safe and keeping their family safe. And someone that takes pride in it rather than just goes through the motions, it's a whole different ballgame. And you guys talked about some of the stuff that happens at Beaux-Arts, and that's one of the things that we want to try to do, is instill pride in what they do so that they feel like they're contributing to the greater good rather than just contributing to a job.
Well, I'm curious, Emily. I asked my daughter several years ago. I'm going to ask her again here today. I asked her if she ever wanted to get into the car business, and she said no. Emily, any thoughts that you've ever had about being involved in the auto industry, and your thoughts there?
So I never personally wanted to go into the automotive industry. I think when I was younger, if my dad was to own his own dealership, I definitely would have, and we talked about that quite a bit when I was younger. But anything other than that, I would not, just because my dad has made such a name for himself and done so well within the industry. I don't want to take that away from him. And also, I don't want people looking at me in a way like she fed off of her dad. And that was kind of like a big thing. I've always admired how much that he's done and grown within his career and in his life. And I've wanted to do that myself, but in my own way. So
Emily, how did you feel when the book came out, Mile One, when that was released? Because that was a pretty big moment for Ed Roberts.
I was very happy about it. It was super exciting to see something just like come together. And I remember when we first talked about it, he's like, I think I'm going to write a book. Came out of left field, at least in my eyes. But I was very excited just to see him work on it, literally day in, day out. And then it actually come together and be something. And me get to read it, and I get to give it to friends, family, and they've gotten it. And it's been really cool to see.
And Emily, what's the future hold for Emily Roberts? Where do you want to become? What do you want to go in life? What are your aspirations?
I know how I am. I will succeed in anything I choose to do. So I haven't don't have anything set in stone that I want to do, that I'm going to pursue. I know I want to get my degree in marketing because that's something I've enjoyed since being in high school. Really enjoyed that field and just watching things grow and seeing the statistics behind that. So I definitely want to go into the marketing field. Right now, like I really enjoy working like the food industry just because I've made so many connections, gotten to meet so many different people from so many different lines of work. And I'm constantly learning there and about other people and their career paths and their choices that have presented me with so many opportunities that I never expected, like working for social media for an up-and-coming moonshine company. And so it's definitely been really cool. So I enjoy it. So right now, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah.
I never would have expected that from Ed's daughter. So social media, wow, that's a lot to be said. Maybe Marco, to kind of change it up a little bit, maybe there's some questions that you would like to ask of Jean, and then maybe Ed, there's some questions that you'd like to ask of Reyna.
There's a question I have for Jean. Being the daughter of the great Ted Ings, who is so incredibly well known in the entire industry, and especially now with the Fixed Ops Roundtable going on for 5 years now, that it's just become so big. How do you feel about it when you look at your dad? Because every kid, no matter how old we are, when we look at our parents, they don't really have a gender. They don't really have an extent. They're just your parents. How do you feel about your dad when you see him? Do you have some pride? Are you amazed? What emotions do you have when you think about your dad?
That's a great question. I think, honestly, I'm really proud of my dad, especially the past 5-6 years, just everything with how he's grown the Roundtable and made such a great space for a great community and fixed ops and beyond that, has been something that I've started paying attention to more. And I can really see all the effort he puts into every little detail, how he checks in on everyone and makes these connections, not just solely for work, but for who the people are, and rallies behind the community. Whenever anyone is in need, he's always one of the first to step up and say, okay, well, let's do what we can to help. And those are all great traits that I honestly want to take away from my dad and learn from him. He's got great people skills and great charisma. I think I wish I was as confident as he was, and he is. And yeah, I honestly just cried. I'm really proud of my dad.
Awesome. Great. I love it. Great response. Thank you.
Reyna, it's my turn. Now I get to question you. So I will tell you, and most of the audience knows, but not all, that I started my career as a technician. And anytime I would go somewhere, no matter where it was at, if I'm talking to people, it always ties back to what's going on with their car, where they had to do this and whatever else. Because when someone works on cars, they always have some way of relating to it. So when you're hanging out with Marco, when you're hanging out with your dad, and how often does someone come up and want to talk cars to him and kind of pull that away from him and take him back to what he does?
It's actually not too frequent, but I have had people, like my own friends, ask me, "Hey, can you ask your dad about this? My car's making a weird noise." Even my grandparents and some former friends' parents have been just like, "Hey, my car makes a weird noise when it turns this way. Does your dad know anything about that?" And it just sometimes it would be like, "Okay, so you're talking to me. You're not talking to my dad." But there were some times where people just ask me for my dad's advice when he's not even there, and that's just how it's always been. I've just gotten so used to that.
Don't forget the neighbors with his chainsaw.
Oh yeah, we do have a neighbor that frequently asks for his chainsaw to be fixed by people. Just
Yep. Yeah, those things happen, and it probably happens more than you realize. Just because it happens all the time, it just seems normal. But everybody has car troubles at some point, and when you know someone in the business, you're certainly making that connection. Say, hey, what about this? Or my car's in the shop here. What do you think about this? But it's good that it was separated enough to where it didn't feel intrusive.
Marco, I'm wondering if there's something about Reyna that you'd like to share with the audience that we don't know. Something special about her. Ed, same thing for you about Emily. Something that you'd like to share, and I'll do the same with Jean.
There's something special about Reyna. It's like, I'll try not to embarrass you. She is actually incredibly smart. She is really smart, really has a good common sense on her. Like we were earlier talking about the Navy. She's been wanting this since junior high.
Yeah.
And ever since then, she has been picking her subjects with it to all line up with what she wants to do. Then her recruiter loved her because she knows exactly what she wants to do in the Navy. She researched it. She's picking up her all her subjects in her last year, etc., to meet up with that. And she's fantastically good in creativity. From as young as I can remember, this girl can paint. Like, she'll sit down with a blank canvas, not color by number, not blank canvas, paint, and she makes these beautiful paintings that just pop out of her mind, and that's just incredibly talented. Not everybody has that.
I did not know that. Well, excellent. Ed.
So for Emily, I love her forward thinking. She thinks more about tomorrow. A lot of times we live in the moment, and we don't necessarily think about tomorrow. So we can go back to her saving money aspect. She'd always hit me up with, "Dad, what about this? I like to have this," or whatever else. And sometimes we say no. And I would, in a way, I would say no is, if you want it, I'll pay for half and you have to pay the other half. Oh no, I don't need it anymore. All of a sudden it was no longer a need. And that over time, because it was certainly a want to begin with, it was no longer a need because it was only a want. And then that over time allowed Emily to prepare herself to, when she did leave home, to go out and buy her first home at the age of 19 years old. And so she has been a shining star for me. And obviously I'm proud because she's my daughter. But from the outside looking in, I think others would agree that she has done well for herself so far.
Congratulations, Emily, on that. I saw that. One thing I'd like to share about Jean is that she's very passionate about. She took screenwriting in college, and graduated that 4-year degree in 3 years. And, during the time when the world changed, she doubled up on things and made sure she got that all done. And she's very passionate about film and theater and screenwriting. And you probably see from time to time, she'll post a film festival that she has helped get started and is very actively involved in, and, produces these films. And she's very hardworking at that. So I'm very proud of her. And she does a lot, not just the producing and the editing. She's acting and she's doing the artwork, and she's, getting people to get involved. So it's a big job. Ed and Marco kind of feels like the Roundtable in another version, but that's a story for another day. What I'd like to do to kind of bring it home, maybe a lightning round. Maybe Jean, you first, and then Reyna, and then Emily. If there's one thing that you'd want the audience to leave with here today that they don't know about having a parent in fixed operations or in dealership or in the automotive industry, 30 seconds, each of you, starting with Jean and then Reyna. One thing that you'd want the audience to know, and then Emily to bring it home about that fixed ops relationship.
Yeah, I think my best bet would say listen to what they have to say, even if it's something in the automotive industry that you feel wouldn't relate to you at all. Like, really take in their stories, listen to their triumphs, their struggles, because it's all important and it all can inform your own day-to-day life. And there's a lot to learn from it, even if it's not something that you're involved in. There's still a lot to learn from everything in the automotive industry.
Well said. Reyna?
No matter if you're in automotive or not, respect the people who do the heavy work for you, for your cars and everything, and who work in the dealership and do these grueling hours so that you can come home with a safe car. And I'd say definitely do not buy them pizza.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Chip off the old block. All right. And Emily?
I would say that, automotive industry is so huge. There's so many different aspects to it. There's so much learning that can be done from it, that just always to trust the people that you works around you. Trust the people that you put in charge of your vehicle and that safety. That's what these people do for their lives. And there's so many good people out there who really want the best for not only your property, like your vehicle, but for you as well and your family. And just to trust every aspect.
Marco, and then Ed, anything you'd like to add to close this out?
I don't think we can top this act. What do you think?
And the girls have done phenomenally well. And I think what Emily was saying is the industry gets a bad rap. Open up your perspectives and don't go in it with a preconceived notion. This has been a great panel. I'm glad all of you gals could join us and give your perspectives on what life was like in the world of fixed ops.
Yep. Want to thank Reyna Zwanenburg, Marco Zwanenburg, Emily Roberts, Ed Roberts, and Jean Ings for being here. So thank you, everybody, for all you do. Fixed Ops, everybody, the next generation, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
CDK fits into what we try to do here very well for one reason. It works. The resources you have allow you to run a car dealership the way that it's supposed to be run. The CDK Fixed Ops Suite allows the service advisor to concentrate on the customer. That has been just the biggest game changer. It's changed the entire face of the business, both in customer transparency and trust. We're pushing right at about a 20% increase in CSI.
Without CDK, I don't think we could be as successful as we are today. We've had record months for the past 14 months.
We've seen a 30% increase in gross profit in our service department in just 1 year, and up 25% in our parts department.
We went from 1.5 to 2 hours per RO on an average to probably more like 5 to 7 per average on an RO.
We use CDK all day long. There's literally nothing that you can do that doesn't require CDK's systems in order to do your job. What I'm most excited about with CDK, the evolution of the product itself. I like the direction it's going. It's going to make people's lives even easier.
This industry leader is off the hook. Please welcome Allie Peters from Cavender Auto Group.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine, and we have a very special guest with us today on the Roundtable. I'm so excited to get to interview Allie Peters, Vice President of Service Operations with Cavender Auto Group. Allie, welcome to the Roundtable.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, Allie, you're no stranger to the Roundtable. You've been on in the past and past events, but this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to really do a one-to-one interview with you. And so I'm so excited to get to share and talk a little bit more about all things Allie Peters.
Yay.
So with that, let me kick off and just ask you, a few questions just so our audience can get to know you as well. So, first, Allie, tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, that is a loaded, open-ended question. But I'm Allie Peters. I'm the Vice President of Service Operations for Cavender Auto Group. And I have been in the business for about 13 years. I started straight out of college. I'm an Aggie, so gig 'em, whoop. And really just, I guess, highlights for me is I like people, and that's where that passion I already had before I started in the business has just exploded from customers to now associates.
Well, Allie, I know we've had the opportunity to meet in person and at many different conferences in the past. And one of the things that people might observe watching this, I know you and I share a similar desk item. So, Allie, tell me a little bit about that.
We do. So up here is my Automotive News 40 under 40 plaque, and I see yours on your credence as well. So that was such an honor. I was in the class of 2021, and a quick story behind that. I went to my first NADA in 2020, right before the world changed, with my owner, and she and I went to the Automotive News Forum. And I was sitting at the table looking at the agenda, and I saw 40 under 40, and I didn't even know that it existed at the time. And so I leaned over to her and I said, I'm going to be on this list one day. And I was 32 at the time. And I said, I have 8 years. I have 8 years to figure out how to become someone who's on that. And so I listened to the speaker, and I watched everyone walk across the stage, and it was something that was exciting to me. And so I just put my head down and did my work. And then the next year I had an opportunity. I was nominated by 2 different people, and I was chosen. So that was really exciting.
Well, and congratulations on your 40 under 40. I definitely want to know a little bit more too, because one of the other things that we share is a little bit of a different path to get into the automotive industry. So I know that, like, in looking at your LinkedIn and your college, where you were in college and the degrees that you have, it looks like, the automotive industry was maybe not the place that you thought you would end up. So how did you first get into the automotive industry?
So I love this question because still to this day, over a decade into this business, I don't really care about cars. I'm not a car person. I don't have a favorite car. I don't really know about horsepower or care to know about horsepower. So I joke a lot about that as to how I did end up. But I am an Aggie, and there is a large automotive group that's tied to the business school at Texas A&M. And my cousin was in the business school. I was not. I studied communication and psychology, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so she actually did an internship the summer after I graduated. And she called me her first or second week and said, you have to apply for this. And I said, well, what is it? She said, it doesn't really matter. It's just you stay very busy and you talk to a lot of people. And so I said, okay. And I applied and got hired and started as a service advisor. And I've just fallen in love with the business. Again, the product is what the product is. I joke that if tomorrow I walked in and we sold and serviced refrigerators, I'd like it just as much.
Well, I think it's amazing to hear all that you've accomplished in the last decade. You talked a little bit about being a service advisor, and then here you are today. You're the vice president of service operations for a large auto group, Cavender. We've all heard of that organization across the country. As you've been in your career, was there ever a moment that you felt during, as you're developing, from the time that you were a service advisor to now as vice president of service operations, was there ever a moment that you felt propelled you to where you are today?
Yeah, so actually, this came up recently too. So my very first service manager, the gentleman that hired me out of college, he and I are still in touch. We work in different cities, but we have the history of him being the guy that took a chance on me. And so I had called him just a few weeks ago about something, and he said, Allie, do you remember when you and I met? And I thought, yeah, I remember that. And he said, you sat in that chair while I was interviewing you, and you told me that you were going to take my job. And I started laughing because that's actually what happened, but that's not what I meant. So he said, hey, Allie, in 10 years, what do you see yourself doing? And I asked him, I said, well, what's the highest thing that I can do? What's the largest responsibility, biggest thing I can do? And he said, a general manager. And I said, okay, well, in 10 years, I'm going to be the general manager. And so we laugh at that because now I am not interested in being a general manager after doing a little stint in sales. My heart isn't fixed. But I also, on the other side, I remember some specific incidences with other managers that one, when I was young, probably 24, maybe 25, I had a different manager pull me in and say, I think you could have an incredible career as a service advisor, but I don't see you as anything more than that. And I remember feeling so shook. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was so surprised. And I at first felt that in my soul. And I thought, okay, well, do I like this job enough for it to be my career? And then I remembered back to how I was raised and the things that my parents told me, the things that my husband told me, like that I'm a strong, independent woman, and if I have my mindset on something, I can do it. And so I do. I think that when you look at these moments in life leading you to where you are, I have probably a whole book worth of them, but those are some specifics that I knew very early on that I wanted to be in leadership because I genuinely care about teams and growing people. And then number two, I remember that being the first time someone told me I couldn't, and that really motivated me. And so here I am, really grateful.
Well, Allie, I love those stories so much for a couple different reasons. There's a lot of people that probably hear that in the course of their career, man or woman in the industry, where someone tells them you're not cut out for sales, or you're not cut out for the car business, or you're not ever going to make it into being a general manager or service operations vice president, any role in between. And I just find that so inspiring that you just knew where you wanted to go, and that was the path that you forged. So that is so amazing, Allie. Thank you for sharing those stories.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, and the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, so this is a topic that I'm sure we have a lot of experience ourselves as women in the automotive industry. But one of the things that I've been seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing as well, is we're seeing more and more women considering careers in automotive, and they're looking at getting into automotive straight out of college or even high school and considering different positions across retail. And so from your perspective, what advice would you give a young 20-something, woman or even a man, like just a young professional? What advice would you give them as they considered a career in automotive?
Oh gosh. So I think I have a lot. I would boil it down to, if this is something that you're interested in, go all in. Just try it. Because truthfully, and this is something that I live by in all of the areas of my life, is just try. If it doesn't work, then you can decide if it's worth trying again and trying in a different way. And if it does work, then, oh my gosh, it worked. And then go try again. And so that's just, again, that idea of we're ever evolving, we're ever growing. And so kind of just do it scared if you have that idea in your head. And I think that it will pleasantly surprise you if you find the right group, that it can be everything that you hoped for plus more.
Well, you mentioned the right group. And so Cavender Auto Group, they're a very large dealer group and a very large and well-known organization. I'm sure, and I'd love to ask you this question, I'm sure that there's a lot of initiatives that Cavender specifically is focusing on when it comes to hiring talent, retaining technicians. What are the things that you're seeing or looking to implement across your stores within Cavender this year?
Yeah, so I think that it is a multifaceted approach, in the sense of oftentimes people, at least in my experience, say, oh, well, we pay the best. Okay, great. We all, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself, but I'm going to also assume most people really like to make money. So there's not a question mark to that. But it's the balance of, I'm going to pay you so much money so that you can't complain about how bad I am to you as an employer. And I don't feel that that's who we are. I feel like we have an extremely competitive pay plan in all of our positions. I sincerely believe in paying for hard work and smart work. So I like a commission-based pay plan. I've almost my entire life have been on one. And it's that idea of, I want to sit back and take a little bit of a break. That's my choice, but my pay is going to be reflected. However, if I want to work really hard, I'm going to be able to go out and accomplish whatever my personal financial goals are. The flip side is, I think that we're extremely aware of the time aspect. That's something that's actually more important to me as someone who straddles that line of millennial. I'm like right smack dab in the middle. So I've got one half of, the Gen X and hardworking, and then I've got the other half of be really smart and figure out how to accomplish goals in a much smaller amount of time, and they both still win. So for me, it's looking at making sure we're not requiring bell-to-bell work, 6-day-a-week work, 12-hour, 13, 14-hour days. I don't love that at all. I want to be able to provide an environment that's very comparable to someone who might be a friend of mine that's in a different industry. If they can go out at 5:30 for happy hour, I want to be able to provide that for my team. If they have soccer games on Saturday, I want them to be able to do that. So just that balance. And then the last thing I think is kind of umbrellas all of it is celebrating our people. So we recently just added our service team to our annual awards, and it's going to be technicians and advisors, and we're so excited about that. We do quarterly celebration events at some of our stores, where just recently, 2 nights ago, we did a hibachi dinner on the top of our parking garage for our technicians, our advisors, our parts department. And it was just, it's team building. It's fun. We all know we're celebrating the hard work we put in, and we get to spend time together and have fun. So again, I have lots of ideas as to how to not only retain, but attract. And I think that when we take care of the people that are under our care, they feel that we're a best place to work. And then they actually want to bring their friends, which is, I think, the the highest compliment we can get when our people start referring their friends to come join us.
I love all of the things that you just described, Allie. And I think the piece that is so important that you've touched on a couple times throughout our conversation today, but you've mentioned the people being the biggest interest, horsepower, technicians, technical instructions, those things are all secondary. It's the people that really create the business and create that retention. And then it's just amazing to hear all the different strategies that you're doing at Cavender to help your people be the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a motto or a mantra at my house. My husband and I try to do that in all aspects of our life. And so to be able to bring that into the workplace and, ultimately impact hundreds of lives and their impact of hundreds of lives. I mean, we can be the ripple that changes the world, takes care of people.
Well, in our last few moments that we have today, I want to ask this final question in closing. But what are you most looking forward to this year?
So I love this question because it's something I think about a lot. I'm a bit competitive, and so
in payments processed, 423 million text messages transmitted, and over 9.5 million videos recorded. My Karma users enjoy an average 16% lift in RO dollars. And innovative solutions like our Advanced Scheduler Plus and Service Cart Video MPI transform the service experience.
What I really enjoy about it is the connection and the relationship building.
We pretty much use every aspect of My Karma that we can.
We went from a paper multi-point to a digital multi-point. It literally year over year, 350% increase in our net profit.
Function is incredible. Online payments easy. The cream always rises to the top with this, and My Karma has been the best.
recap, our next segment features our friends Shon Butler, Shon Kingrey, Sarah Vantine, and Ted Ings.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings, and we have some exciting topics today that we're going to talk about with our favorite guests, Shon Kingrey and Shon Butler. Welcome to the Roundtable, gentlemen.
Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. First time here. First time caller. Thank you.
Well, this topic is
first
really
panel, right, Shon? First panel ever, right? First panel.
It's so exciting to have y'all back on the roundtable, and always the conversations are very engaging. And I know the topics that we're talking about today, a lot of dealerships and a lot of service managers and service directors are experiencing this in their operations. And so I just want to set the stage. You know, Shon and Shon, y'all were both talking about what it's like coming into a new operation, coming into a new company, and looking at the scorecard year over year. And so talking about the differences from year one and then what happens all the way in year three. So Shon Kingrey, I'm going to kick it to you first. What exactly are y'all experiencing, and what are some of the things that you're talking about as it relates to this transition period from year two to year three?
You know, it's funny. Shon and I were talking on the phone, and Shon and I talk and text a lot. And Shon Butler started the conversation of, year one's easy, year two's easy, year three seems to be the hardest. Year one, you're probably not at a store because the store is operating correctly. Otherwise, you're not there. Even if the guy's retired before you because he had been there, for 40 years, chances are you're the new blood. So the first year is pretty easy. Hate to say it. You're learning them. They're learning you. I don't think it's been a big secret in the group I'm with. There was some resistance by some stores, and some other stores loved me and hugged me. And you could tell by the numbers and the results, the ones that supported the process is the ones that didn't. And as when Shon and I were talking, and I'm not going to step on his toes here, is year two is your benefits because that's your processes in place. When the real challenges come is year three, because, I have a good friend, Charles, that lives in Atlanta, made a comment on the phone the other night. Well, Shon, you're up against your numbers from last year now. It's still easy, guys. Shon and I talk about 18. He talks about 25%. I always start at 18%. I'm going to give you 18% growth every single year. Without a doubt, that's where I'm going to set my budget. Is it an easy number? No. But if they're used to 4 or 5%, guys, that's too weak. I mean, that's child's play, quite frankly. And to set it at 18, I like Shon's number 25 even better, by the way. But to set the bar at 25% every single year gives them something to strive for. Is Q1 going to be a little more difficult? And again, I'm not trying to talk too much. Up here, we have winter months, okay? But down in Florida, you had the snowbirds. You didn't have such a flux of people. Here, Q1's a little tougher. Everybody kind of hibernates. Now that you go into the April, May, June months, it's kind of amazing to watch that everybody comes out and the numbers skyrocket. Those numbers were achievable, but now you got a little bit to make up from Q1. So, Shon, go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes there.
You're good. You're fine, Shon. So to pick up where you left off, year two, like you said, we're benefiting from our own processes, structure, and organization that we put in place. We're tweaking, we're your quality will go up. We hit the elite for our sales messed something up. We should have hit something for Honda because we blew it out of the water, and we're already way ahead of last year. And March really surprised me. April surprised me because they were just. It looks like it was ho hum, but we're making it look so easy that they're just getting the job done. You know, when they're averaging $400 a ticket, that puts them in the top 10% of the nation on the reporting that comes out. You know, if they're averaging 1.8 hours per ticket, this is a Japanese store. That's a pretty good number to be averaging. You know, so we just we're a rural store though. It's hard to get more customers. We're pounding that avenue every day.
Shon Butler, I never asked you, your first year there, when you got there. I know, for example, Shon Kingrey, the first year that he went up to Wisconsin, he mentioned it earlier. He encountered some resistance, okay, from some parts of the organization, multi-dealer group. Again, not all, but there was some, okay. Shon, did you encounter that resistance during your first year there?
Not at the Honda store. The Honda store was so beat down, they embraced with love somebody that just said, we're going to help you out. And so I did right away, right? We went around. These people hadn't had adjustments in their cost of living, shall we say, in years. And now, first thing I did was all the flat rate guys and all the other guys, everybody got a big bump, right? So that was, that just kicked it, showing that we were serious. And somewhat of a guarantee. I'm not afraid to guarantee some of your senior guys some money to come in and make sure they're overseeing these older guys. So it happens. And then, but the stores up the street, the Acura and the Mazda, believe it or not, about half of those people quit and they followed the guy who exited. But the guy who exited was running a giant buy here, pay here lot. So it was easy hours as they were all just looking at used cars. All my people with certification stayed, and that's what I cared about. And so we've rebuilt that up there now. They're back higher than they were before. They're in year 2.5, and they're killing. They're another store, Acura number, over $400 a ticket. You know, so for what we're getting, they're getting maximum dollars as far as I'm concerned. We just need more people.
Shon Kingrey, I want to circle back real quick because there was a couple numbers that you threw out, and I want to ensure, just for the audience that's listening to this today, you said the number 18%, but then you also said 25%. So when you're talking about that number, what does that mean for a fixed operations manager?
It can mean a lot of different things, whatever your group's focused on, okay? Because I came from a group that was strictly focused on gross, to be very honest with you. Didn't really care about net. We're going to get to that in a second, but the group I'm with now, we focus on net, all right? At the end of the day, it all, as Shon said, one thing leads to another anyway. But I'm going to give you 18% net growth because that's what we set the bar at. Shon made a comment, and Sarah, to your point, is, guys, it's transparency. Shon and I were talking on the phone literally earlier this morning. Everybody in his service department, everybody in my service department knows what the goals are daily. And they have to know if you're hitting those goals or not. And like I said, if Q1's off a little bit, and by the way, we're really not that far off, but if it's off, they have to know that in Q2 they have room to grow. But that has to be the net. That has to be the hours. Everything you do has to be that incremental growth of 18%, 25%, whatever your company wants to set the bar at. And that has to be the pulse of the shop. That has to be the culture of the shop. Again, transparency is key. There's no question about it. And back to the point of Ted real quick. I got a phone call last night, and it's funny, I won't even mention names, but Ted already knows the GM I'm talking about that was extremely resistant when I got here. Ted knows the name. It's coming off his head. I got a phone call last night, and his exact words were, I wouldn't change a thing because you woke my eyes up. You made me see things I wouldn't have seen before. And this guy and I, quite frankly, we headbutted a lot at the beginning because I'm calling out, if the baby's ugly, sometimes the baby's got to be ugly, and you got to call that out. And now him and I talk almost on the daily, and what a change from what it was a year ago. To Shon's point, where you were a year or two, I'm at 18 months now, I think, whatever it is. And still, by the way, his store is growing 18%. It's a true number that's easily hittable.
Shon Butler, you said, you mentioned something with the marketing aspects too, and looking at that. And I recall, when you mentioned in a previous discussion we were having before, when I first got to Scott Clark, and we were experiencing some pretty radical changes during that time. But talk to us a little bit about what you were seeing when it comes to, not outside of the hours, but the things that you're doing with your marketing, the things that you're doing with social at your organization.
Well, so it's so funny because our organization is really spread out. We got like 6 stores in Memphis, 3 stores in this area, 3 stores in that area. In Milwaukee, they own 6 stores. California, it was like 30-something stores, 20-something rooftops, 30-something brands, and they're all over the place. So uniformity is not going to happen because they're buying these little groups, and then they're going in and finding ways to tweak them and make them better. And a lot of times they're building new buildings and stuff like that. But Shon Kingrey or myself couldn't fly around enough to be in all that many rooftops to affect it singularly. So what you have to do is put out cast a broad net and make sure everybody understands the goals, the vision, and what we're doing this month. And when we find something that works, usually they started off with my stores are the guinea pigs for a lot of things that we try because I know I'll implement them quickly and I'll give you an honest answer whether it's worth it or not. There's one that advertises heavily that I'm not going to tell you, but after a 3-month trial, it's not worth it to me. Maybe worth it to somebody else, but they're coming to get their stuff. Okay. So that's just, I give everybody 90 days and then we evaluate. But to back, Sarah, was there something else there?
No, just so, you mentioned that communication and kind of the untangible, some of the things that happen in the stores and the processes are very measured. You're looking at the, hours per repair order, you're looking at the KPIs of your service advisors, but then there's those untangible cultural elements.
Yeah, the CSE and that can be uncomfortable conversation when people have been here so long, or CSI, whatever brand that's a tough one. But this store in the last year, like I said, we hit 99% on fixed right the first time. Customers that asked, that's a pretty strong number, So, and then we went from having 2 master techs to 5. We went from having, 5 regular techs to 10. So we've experienced exponential growth, and I've grabbed most of them from like the little 2-year college up here, Northeast State, and groomed them from there. So they only know one way, and I'm okay with that, right? Because that's what helps produce repetition. Repetition produces regularity and without mistakes. If they got questions, I always have an open door policy, or they can call me, text me, whatever. I was a little late this morning, and they were getting ready to come check on me. They were like, "You're never late." They were going to send out a search and rescue squad. I was like, no, I just overslept. Yeah, it's okay.
So Shon and Shon, let me ask you this, because you were both coming into these organizations tasked with increasing fixed operations, service and parts, and all the things we're discussing now, culture, increasing and all those things, getting people to work together. What is the view at your organizations of fixed ops right now? Here we are coming into the middle of 2024. Where does fixed ops stand today? Because I know both of you have dealerships with strong sales focuses as well. And it seems that fixed ops has become clearer in focus. But what is the view there at your stores? Maybe Shon Kingrey first, and then Shon.
Ted, it's a good question, because I'm going to go back to one of the roundtables and the May the 4th one. Not that I was partial to the Star Wars one, but I made a comment. No, not that I was partial to it, but I made a comment that if you don't know what fixed absorption is, you better learn it, because in 2024, it's the only thing that's going to matter. And I can't tell you right now that it's ever been more important. And now I'm going to get on my little soapbox and start preaching for a second. But guys, car sales are off. Used car market's a disaster because we overpaid for them during COVID. The new cars, they can't give them away now. In the Chrysler world, they're re-invoicing cars, and I've never heard of that in my 30 years in the car business. They're creating new window stickers to go back down in price because they've overpriced them. Guys, variables in trouble, and they really, really are. We talked about the percentage, and Sarah, you asked, the group I'm with now is big into NCM, and we use Benchmark. Benchmark's the top 20% of the nation. That is our baselines, the top 20%. Anything less than that is failure. And we thrive about that. We're key about that. But Ted, to answer your question, I don't know that fixed operations has ever been more important. It's huge. We have, there it is. That's it. We live in the book. For those that don't know how to read the book, you need to learn the book. But to answer your question, Ted, I don't know that fixed absorption being anything less than 100%, and I know they've lowered that threshold to 80%. Not in my world, guys. Fixed absorption has to be 100%. It is our job to pay the bills. And once they get a taste of that, I always say, once they get on the crack a little bit, guys, it's tough to get them off. They've got a taste of it, guys, and I'm here to tell you, I've got stores at 114% fixed absorption, real numbers. Wow. Okay, it is possible. It can be done. Now, the bad news is, as we started this segment off, you've set the bar here. There's nothing lower than that now.
Shon Butler, fixed operations in the viewpoint, in the eyes of leadership there at Yamansky Automotive Group in your stores.
I will tell you that Mr. Yamansky is very, very involved. He's like Darth Vader, right? You don't see him, you hear him. But parts is number one in his mind, right? Parts is untouchable, unnegotiable. There's nothing, you can't give a part away, you can't discount it, you can't do anything. There's no charges against parts. It's all against the service on the parts and service side of it. That's his holy grail. And so what put him like that, I can't tell you. But I know that my boss has been with him since the beginning when he first became a GM at a store. And he was the GSM. My boss was the GSM. He wasn't even anything to do with, he quit when Dan bought the store. Funny story. Yeah, he quit and Dan called him a couple months later and said, you got to come back. Everybody's asking for you. He said, I'm not doing the late nights and stuff anymore. So he made him the parts and service director so he would get off at 6 o'clock. And he's been that way for 25 years. Pretty funny how that worked out. But to answer your question, it's all the net is the toughest part. I wish I had a store doing 114%. You and I having another phone call here, Mr. Kingrey.
Anytime, buddy.
Because my number just came out year to date, and I'm at 84%. That's up over 62% when I first got the store 3 years ago. But I'm not at 100. 100 is the goal. And the Mazda Acura store up the road is at 78%, but it was below 50%. That store is about a year behind this one. So, but they're pretty much maxed out right now. They're building 2 new buildings, and they can't really fit a whole lot in. But we never tell anybody no. Come on, we'll get it done. If it's mind over matter. If you don't mind waiting a little bit, it don't matter.
Sarah, you and I are very fortunate to know these two gentlemen as leaders in the fixed ops business. We met them here through the Fixed Ops Roundtable, both Shon Butler and Shon Kingrey. And Sarah, going back, 4+ years ago when I met you at the Fixed Ops Roundtable in one of our last physical events before that episode happened in 2020 when the world changed. A lot of great information, Sarah, and a lot of info to be shared.
This will be really exciting to continue the conversation on. And I know Shon and Shon are both amazing resources. And as you can tell, everybody with the Fixed Ops Roundtable is so collaborative. And so these gentlemen are a real testament to that.
So on behalf of the Roundtable, very grateful to both Shon Kingrey at the Kayser Automotive Group and Shon Butler at Yamansky, Bristol Honda, Johnson City, Mazda, and Acura. Gentlemen, thank you for being a big part of what we do at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you as always, Shon. I'm sure I'll be talking to you a little later.
Of course.
All right. Bye.
Three of the best here, everybody. Shon Kingrey, Shon Butler, and Sarah Vantine here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
log on to the World Wide Web as Aaron Waters, president of OEM Interactive, tells us all about fixedopsjobs.com.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Our great friend, Aaron Waters, he's the president at OEM Interactive, is back with us today. Also talking about Fixed Ops Jobs, which is a new channel for OEM Interactive. But first, Aaron, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted. Thank you for having us. Always a pleasure to be here and chatting with you. You know, it's 90s themed. I would like to say, back in the 90s, I wish I had my hairline when it was back in the 90s, but we've gotten progressively, we've lost it and gotten a little gray on the sides. So, but nevertheless, we're here and we love being here and chatting with our friends at the round table.
I've got a closet full of 90s clothes. I'm sure you may too as well, Aaron. And I've got to get a picture. I've got to get a photo of you from the 90s. I think we'd have some fun with that. But here we are in the modern day. And so, Aaron, I see OEM Interactive all over right now. You're in all different forms of media. Congratulations to you. Earlier this year at the NADA. And something I see that seems to be a consistent message I want to ask you about before we get into the meat of the conversation is the phrase a purpose-driven fixed ops digital marketing agency. That phrase purpose-driven, Aaron, take us through that, what that means and why.
Yeah, our philosophy, our motto, our credo is our people, our partners is our purpose, right? And when I started OEM, I wanted to create an environment in a company that really focused on its people, and the purpose was its people, both internally and externally, and our partners, right? And we call our clients, and we don't like to use the term client. We call them partners, and we everything is about our people and our partners, and that's our purpose. And everything that we do on a daily basis is doing something for internally or externally. What are we doing to create a great environment, solve problems, create more solutions for our people, and that's our purpose. Like that is the core of everything that we do. That is the core of everything. When I wake up in the morning, everything is just very purpose driven. And what can we do to make it to make OEM Interactive a better place to work for our people, and a better place for our partners to solve their problems. And, we're consistently looking and listening to our people and our partners, and listening to the solutions that they may be looking for, and trying to solve those problems for them. So it's very, very purpose driven. And, and that is, I'd like to pride myself on the work environment that we've created and the culture that we've created at OEM Interactive, both for our employees or our people, my colleagues, and for our partners. Our partners, really seem to love working with us, and that's, the biggest compliment that I can get is, just the referrals. We've pretty much grown the business just for the most part through referrals, and that's the core of everything that we do. So our team knows that. They work together in that manner, and that's the core of everything that we're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. You hear me say it a million times. Our people, our partners is our purpose, and I think that every company and every individual needs to understand what their purpose is, and what they're trying to do. And sometimes that comes immediately, and sometimes it takes a while to really understand what your purpose is and what you're trying to do and achieve, both in the short term and the long term. And our goal is to just, help my goal is to help my colleagues and our partners continue to grow. There's an old saying, it actually comes from a scripture: we rise by lifting others up. And I consistently say that to our team as well as our partners, that in order for us to all grow, we need to lift each other up. And it's super important, and once again, it's the core of everything that we do. And if we can do that on micro levels, we can affect things on a macro so much more. And just really is going to make everything a better place for everyone, right? So we rise by lifting others up. So that's really the core and why we say we're a purpose-driven agency.
Aaron, thank you for recognizing the people, especially at the dealership level. I think that's so important. And also the fact that you at OEM Interactive have reduced the friction points, a lot of the friction points that people in the dealership are confronted with on a daily basis. Some of the tools that we talked about recently, Parts Messenger Pro, okay, that is helping to reduce friction in a big way. And I want to ask you about that because we talked about that. You also have a text to chat tool. Can you tell our audience and maybe remind some who've listened in before on what that Parts Messenger Pro product does and how that benefits everybody from the guest to the consumer, all through the dealership?
Yeah, so Parts Messenger Pro is a text to chat tool that we've developed in-house exclusively for the parts industry. After years of talking with our partners, we're hearing a lot of the same things. We're getting too many phone calls. We're getting too many emails. We don't know how to handle this. We need to shut the phones off. We need to shut the email off. And if you're trying to sell parts and accessories online, that is not a good thing to do. Right. And consumers have questions. We're all consumers. We are not, in a lot of cases, we're not experts on some of the things that we're buying. And if we can't find the information on the website, we want to be able to pick up the phone or at least be able to communicate to someone to answer some of those questions. So we created Parts Messenger Pro as a text to chat tool that integrates directly onto any e-commerce website that can streamline and funnel communications for the parts counter person or whomever is managing those communications off of your e-commerce website. And now, instead of being able to just take one phone call at a time, or the last thing anybody wants in an e-commerce setting is for somebody to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, XYZ dealership, can you please hold, please? Can you please hold?" And then you get put on hold. And that really doesn't happen a lot in the e-commerce industry. And nobody wants to be put on hold. So instead of being able to take one phone call or answer one question at a time, now they can answer numerous questions or take numerous text messages from different customers and be able to answer their questions in a very efficient manner. And it has really helped streamline communications. It increases conversion rates. It increases positive reviews because you can solicit reviews from Parts Messenger Pro as well. And it's just been an all-around great tool for our partners that utilize that. Cuts down on time on the phone. The last thing you want to do is have somebody on the phone the entire time fielding questions and eating up those hours. So it brings money and time back down to your bottom line and makes your people more efficient. And then you're increasing your sales, which is great.
So speaking on this focus on people in fixed ops, Aaron, you've at OEM Interactive have not been sitting around. You are busy, and you are busy making things happen. I see now the scroll down below, as you and I are speaking here, not just OEMinteractive.com, but fixedopsjobs.com. I see that you are now hyper-focused on helping dealerships find the right candidates for the right job, which for a long time, there's not been really one place to go. You and I were talking in the green room. There's been several resources, but talk to us now, because you've put this new tool in place, fixedopsjobs.com. You're benefiting both dealerships, people in the industry, opportunities that are out there, creating a lot of awareness. Tell us what you're doing, Aaron, for the community.
Yeah, Ted, and once again, it really gets back to that original question, a purpose-driven agency, right? And I said the biggest tool that we have as leaders is our ears, right? In my opinion, it's listening. We listen to our people, we listen to our partners, and we're hearing what they have to say and listening to their concerns. And a common denominator that I've heard year in and year out with dealer principals, fixed ops directors, service managers, parts managers is we're looking for people. We need more people. How do we find people? The cost to find people is super expensive. Going on Indeed, going on LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Career Builder, all these different sites. And their models are so, it adds up really quick if you're trying to fill one position. I know as a business owner, trying to fill one position can cost potentially thousands of dollars in just marketing that and placing those ads across all those numerous different job boards. So we listened, we heard what our partners were saying, understand their concerns. We felt that there wasn't anything like this out there. And so we created Fixed Ops Jobs as kind of the niche job board for the fixed ops industry. It's free to sign up. Both from a candidate perspective as well as the employer perspective. No fees there. There's no fees for candidates whatsoever. And if a company wants to post the job, we're doing it a little bit differently than an Indeed or a ZipRecruiter, where you have to kind of promote what's your daily budget to promote this job. That can, that's a platform first model and not an employer first model. And everything that we do is for our people and our partners, right? We want to make that the focal point. And so instead of paying to promote, you're just buying on bundles of packages, right? So at say $100, you get 2 job posts that you can post for 30 days. And that's not a reoccurring fee, right? That's just, you use that bundle, you have a quota, and we have different sets of bundles at different price points, and they all have different features. But every candidate and every employer has their own dashboard where they can communicate and apply to jobs. They can download resumes and manage everything just directly through the back end. It's an extremely user-friendly interface, and we're really happy with the product. We're going to continue to make adjustments and make tweaks based upon what our partners are saying and what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and continue to evolve and build that into the leading fixed operations job board in the space. So in a short amount of time, we've got a lot of companies that have signed up for it, and we have a lot of candidates that are signing up for it. And once again, when we talk about doing things for our partners, in the instance of Fixed Ops Jobs, we have 2 sets of partners there, right? We've got the companies that are utilizing the platform and trying to hire candidates, and then we have the candidates who are looking for jobs. And in a lot of cases, sometimes the candidates don't want to disclose their name and or their information, so they can still sign up. They can upload their resumes, but they can keep their anonymity there on the website so that nobody knows that they're looking for a job. So it keeps them safe. And so they're able to utilize the platform and search and look for potential opportunities that might be right for them. And then at the same token, the employers can post as many jobs as they like to. So we're really happy about it. It's picking up steam, and once again, we are a purpose-driven agency. We're listening to our partners and trying to solve the problems that they have.
So fixed ops jobs right now, if I'm watching this, I can go there. If I'm an employer, I'm a company, I can sign up right now. Okay. And I can put out one or more different jobs that we have available at our company. And if I'm an individual watching this today, who's in that fixed ops arena, like you just said, even if I want to, respect my privacy, I can go on there, see jobs and apply, and no charge for the individual to do that, to go out there and see the opportunities, Aaron.
No charge whatsoever for anyone to sign up, right? And whether you're an employer or a candidate looking for a job, no charge to sign up. Wow. It's free. Wow. Go on there today. It's easy to sign up. With anything, we try to make the platform, give both the candidate and the company or the employer opportunities to build out their profiles and make them so that their profiles can stand out. So almost like a social network in a way. You can put your own picture in there, your own profile picture, your logo, or cover photos. If you have company. Like a company a benefit video on the benefits of working with XYZ dealership, you can embed that in there, and so that your profile, your company profile, stands out. And those are things that candidates are looking for, and they may not might be not be ready to apply for that job yet, and they want to find a little bit more information before they put themselves out there. And if they they see those types of things, those little teaser videos, they're like, you know what, yeah, that company sounds great, and I will apply for that. Or maybe on the flip side, they see something in there that maybe it's not what they expected, and they can go, you know what, I'm not gonna bother doing that and applying for that job. I'll apply someplace else. But the more you put into anything, right, the more you get out of it. And so we've kind of left it up to individuals. If they want to build out their profiles, they can, and it'll look nice, sharp, robust, cover photo, video, profile picture, and so on. So it's really, once again, we're really happy with it, and we're trying to solve problems here for the industry.
Aaron, and in terms of the companies on there, is it just dealerships, or can it be companies who are not dealerships, who are involved in fixed ops? As you know, I mean, I've learned so much about this industry. I thought I knew it all, but every 3 months I come back and I realize I really know nothing at all. There's so much that's changing. There are a lot of companies out there who are great employers and looking for great people.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ted. So it's not just for dealerships, right? Like we've got auto dealerships, we have power sports, we have bus repair shops, RV companies, little service centers. If you're looking for people that are in that fixed operation space, and you're not a dealership, you don't have to be a dealership to sign up for it. And that's the great thing. So somebody was looking for they posted a job for an RV carpenter, and which was a first, but it made sense. And that job is posted now on Fixed Ops Jobs, and we were happy to see that job come in, and we were like, wow, that was not a category of jobs that we thought about, but it came through, and it totally made sense. So we encourage people to utilize the platform. All jobs and candidates and employers all have to go through an approval process. So you can't just throw anything up there. And if there's something that's malicious or doesn't fit our standards, we'll reach out to the employer or the candidate, work with them to adjust those settings or adjust that job post to just make it fall within our parameters.
Aaron Waters, everybody, constantly helping us rethink the fixed ops space. He is the president of OEM Interactive and fixedopsjobs.com. OEM Interactive is a purpose-driven fixed ops digital marketing agency. Aaron, congratulations on all the success you're having. As I mentioned, we see you everywhere. The website, oeminteractive.com, and of course, fixedopsjobs.com. Aaron, if our audience wants to reach out for more information, I see your email scrolling there. I know you're active on social media, but Aaron, you've also got a great team that you've built with all these people at OEM.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like it's about putting a great team together. It's our people. We're very selective on who we bring on board. We want to make sure that they're helping every single one of us, and we're able to learn from all of them, and they're helping our partners out. And we wouldn't be where we're at if it wasn't for our people. I say this every day. I'm super grateful for the opportunity that I have to work with my colleagues. I don't, and everybody knows this, like, I don't say my, employees, they're my colleagues. I work with them and I work for them, and they don't work for me. They work, I work for them, and we all work together. So that's, once again, it's just the core philosophy here at OEM Interactive. Our people, our partners is our purpose. If you're trying to get in contact with us, oeminteractive.com, or you can email me directly at awaters@oeminteractive.com or partner@oeminteractive.com. And definitely check out fixedopsjobs.com. Once again, free to sign up. You use it when you need it. And, we're going to continue to grow and build upon that and find more solutions for the fixed ops industry and for all of our partners that are out there.
Aaron Waters, everybody, great friend of the retail community, OEM Interactive and fixedopsjobs.com, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi there. My name is Aaron Waters. I'm the president and founder here of OEM Interactive, the digital marketing firm that specializes in online parts and accessory sales. At OEM Interactive, our philosophy has always been very straightforward. Our people, our partners is our purpose. Our team is built of experts not only in marketing and advertising, but also in fixed operations. Our expertise and strategies are proven to supercharge your online parts and accessory sales. Sound good to you so far? Great. Head on over to oeminteractive.com to learn more about partnering with us. OEM Interactive. Sell more parts today.
Hey Danny, were you able to find that repair order for me?
Yes, here it is.
Oh, thanks. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong repair order number. I said 825833.
Yes?
Hi Danny, I need you to help me find this repair order number.
Yeah, sure.
825833. 825833. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay, please help me find that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Hey Danny, were you able to find that repair order for me?
Yes, here it is.
Oh, thanks. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong repair order number. I said 825833.
No, you told me 852833.
No. It was 825833. I think you got the numbers confused. Can you go please look for it again. Thanks.
Oh.
Sit back and chillax, dude. This show is just getting started. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90s Rewind event.
The right person, right job, right now. Learn how the Carl Sewell organization hires the right people.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's a great honor to present the conference with Joe Kistner. Joe is the CEO of a company called Trego. The right person, right job, right now. If you haven't heard about them, you will. They're involved with some of the biggest names in the industry. And Joe, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. Appreciate you having me.
Joe, I first heard about Trego and the work that your company is doing with a company called Sewell down in Texas. And I think as everybody watching today knows, that name Sewell, Carl Sewell, is an icon in the industry, literally wrote the book, okay, that everything that we do today is really based on. And you've had some deep roots there. And Joe, great honor to have you as part of the conference today.
Well, thank you, Ted. I appreciate that.
So if you can, let's kind of get started and let's frame this. Joe, what is Trego?
Well, Ted, there's a short answer and a long answer to that question. In short, we're a 50-year-old psychometric personality assessment provider with years of experience in the automotive industry, primarily in the retail space. So what does that mean? Well, the organization started as a psychological consulting firm by Dr. Trego back in 1970. Dr. Trego, he was a pioneer of taking psychological personality tests that were originally designed for clinical use and applying them into the business application. And there was a few pioneers who did that back then, and they understood that if you used a correctly constructed, valid normative personality assessment, you can accurately identify core behaviors and predict performance. So that whole concept, that whole process application evolved over the years. And today it's known in the HR world as employee assessments. The thing that makes us different is Dr. Trego focused most of his research on the automotive retail space, as I mentioned. And that was because of his relationship with Carl Sewell. And over the years, we've helped many organizations around the country actually grow and become successful using Trego's proprietary research and his approach.
You know, we all today know the mantra, customers for life. Carl Sewell wrote that book. And, before the customer, there's the employee. And I understand that really is the foundation or the bedrock, if you will, of a lot of what you do. Tell me about your background, Joe, and anything else on the company that our audience would want to know about.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, Dr. Trego started things 50 years ago. I currently am the owner and CEO of Trego. I personally have been in the assessment industry for over 30 years in many different capacities. And I was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Trego on a number of projects. Actually, he helped me start my own assessment company over 9 years ago. And it's been very successful. And the great part of that experience was really the opportunity to work closely with Dr. Trego. And as our relationship grew, it became clear to him that it just made sense for me to want to carry on his work as he was ready to move towards semi-retirement. And as a result, we put a business deal together, and now I have the point on moving the organization forward. And it's really a great situation for both of us because I get to focus on my strength, which is operations and business development. And Dr. Trego can really focus his energy on the science and the veracity of the assessment tool.
And that is a science. And Joe, we hear more today than ever before about dealership culture. I don't think 10, 15 years ago, that was even part of the conversation. And we hear about a career path. Why are the tools that Trego offers, such as the assessment, why are they so important to dealers right now at this time?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, Carl wrote the book Customers for Life, and I'm sure a number of your folks who watch here today have read that book. And if they have, they know that Carl was the pioneer in changing the culture of the car buying experience from that of a transaction to the beginning of a lifelong relationship. And as I watched the last roundtable, it was really exciting to see that a number of the folks there, they either have or they're trying to accomplish the same culture. And so the reason these tools are important is the same reason Carl reached out to Dr. Trego literally 50 years ago. And it's because Carl knew he could not achieve his vision if he didn't have the right people or a process to ensure he got them. And that holds true today. I mean, not just for dealers, but for any organization, you see, because understanding human behavior is quite challenging for most people. And these tools actually bring science to what most hiring managers do naturally. What that means is that every interviewer, during the interview process, sometimes they sit back in their chair, their eyes roll back in their head, and they say, is this one going to be like Steve? Is this one going to be like Sally? Oh, don't give me another one like Joe. He's a pain. They're sizing them up. So they're trying to determine whether this candidate is going to be like their best or their worst. Well, we take the guesswork out of that, and we bring objective data to the hiring process.
Joe, this is fascinating, especially how it applies to the retail automotive industry. So, Joe, how do you make a difference, if you will, at dealerships? You've got some really great dealerships watching today. You've got dealerships who are early adopters, who want to learn more and want to get better. How do you do it?
Well, it's really about efficiency, productivity, and culture. Meaning you can teach skill. I mean, you can share a vision. Shoot, you can even get somebody excited about a vision. But the critical component is making sure that the new hire can adapt to the culture. You can't teach that. That has to come from within. So they need to have the type of personality that naturally aligns with what it takes to be successful in this industry. And I've heard from a lot of your folks that talk at this group, that they talk about how great this industry is, and it's a great life, and it's a rewarding career, and they wouldn't change it for anything. But the reality is, we as humans have very different personalities, preferences, styles, call it whatever you want. The fact is, not everyone is cut out for this business. And so Dr. Trego, with Carl Sewell's help, has spent 50 years identifying the characteristics that will yield success in this business. And with Trego's assessment, we can measure that and predict if a candidate is cut out for this business. This is important now, especially since many, many folks are forced to do recruiting outside of the industry.
Yeah. And I would imagine that your tools can help save the dealership and the dealership leaders a lot of time, in their hiring process. I'm looking down below in the ticker, Joe, and I see where it says your name and it says Go Trego. I see a mantra in there about right person, right job, right now. Talk to us about that, and can you give us an example of how that works?
Well, Ted, it all starts with the question, what is the right person, right? What does that even mean? And traditionally, it means they want to hire more people like their current top producers, right? But how do you define that? How do you measure that? Sure, you can measure many factors in the job, even in someone's skill, but how do you know they're the right person? You see, to do that, you need a tool that statistically measures people and then tracks success over time so you can determine what's required to be successful. And it's the only way to accurately predict a person's potential success on the job. And that's what the research Dr. Trego worked on, and that's what he's done in this industry. Because remember, I mentioned before, understanding human behavior can be very complicated, especially if, unless you're thoroughly trained or you're really experienced at it. So it's easy to get it wrong. And sure, there are a number of folks that will say, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I'm good. My gut's always right. And you know what I say when I hear that? I say two things. First, you're human, right? And none of us is always right. And second, even if you are good, I assure you, everyone working for you is not. And if you're not using a tool that's going to provide objective empirical data, it's going to be really hard to measure the results and achieve consistency in what you're looking for. And again, that's what Dr. Trego has been doing for 50 years. And that's why Carl Sewell describes in his book how the Trego assessment really helped him build his empire.
Fascinating conversation, Joe. There are a lot of folks who come on the roundtable and do great work in our industry. But when we talk about Carl Sewell, we're on an entirely different level, okay, than anything that has really transpired in our industry. Talk to us a little bit about employee satisfaction. We're hearing a lot about that now and how critical that is, that we monitor and we're aware of that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, employee satisfaction really just comes from simply matching people to the job. I mean, if you think about it, when are people happiest? I mean, when are you happiest, Ted? I mean, you're happiest when you're fully engaged in winning, right? No one wants to be engaged and lose, nor do people want to be under-engaged and bored. So the key, again, is to align the person's mental ability and personality to the requirements of the job. Now, when you do that, you create peak performance, and that turns into engagement, and positive engagement turns into satisfaction. I mean, let's face it, when we're hiring folks, we want to make sure that they're going to succeed, because we all know that if you don't, it can be very expensive. Well, I can also assure you that when that happens, when that failure happens, the employee suffers just as much as you do. And remember, that suffering for them can be as much emotional as it can be physical. And then when they leave, who do they blame? They blame your company, right? So by matching the person to the job, you eliminate all of those issues. Really, it's all about job matching. Remember, happy employees make for happy customers.
Joe, I got to ask you, is it difficult to get started for a dealer once they get on the Go Trego platform?
No, it's very, very easy. It's very, very easy. We've been doing this for 50 years. We work with a lot of people, help them through the process and get them ramped up literally within a day.
We're speaking today to Joe Kistner. He's the CEO of a company called Go Trego. The right person, right job, right now. Worked with some of the most esteemed dealer groups in the nation, including Carl Sewell in Texas. Very well known by our audience, customers for life. Joe, how do your tools help in other areas of the dealership? Because there's so much in a dealership. We've got sales, we've got marketing, we've got service, parts, fixed operations, technicians. There's really everything in the automotive retail business.
Yeah, there is. And, one of the things I picked up at the last roundtable was really two important items. One was I heard someone say that service advisors can either keep customers or lose customers. And the other thing I noticed was a compelling theme throughout the entire event. And I really think it was Tully Williams that said it the most. The message was clear: sell hours, right? So with that said, I believe that makes the service advisor a critical component to the entire operation. So I'd like to tell you just a quick story about service advisors that Dr. Trego shared with me years ago. Because he firmly believed in consistently reviewing the process and the data. Years after he started working with Sewell, he looked at the service advisors, he tracked all their performance data, and he had all their assessment scores. So after doing a correlation study, he brought the service managers into a conference room and he shared the results. Now, the reason he was excited about this is because the service advisors, if you think about it, all things are kind of created equal. It's not like sales, where sales has different Rolodex, different networks, different prospects. But for service advisors, they're all using the same systems, the same training. They have the same parts people, the same technicians. It's basically a level playing field. So he brought them all into the room and he shared the data. And he broke the advisors into two groups: upper 50%, lower 50%. I want to remind everybody, these were all elite. These were hired by Sewell personally, by Trego. And so we're talking good and great service advisors, but he broke them into the upper and lower 50%, right? So as he put the data up there, he asked them to think about it. And when he looked at it, he asked them the question, by looking at this data, why do you think there's a difference? And I actually have a slide up here to show you that.
Okay. Here, I'll bring it up. Let's take a look at it.
And I apologize for how simple this slide looks, team, but this is literally a copy of Dr. Trego's transparency that he was using with an overhead projector. That's how long ago this was, right?
Joe, it may have been groundbreaking at the time. I think it's still groundbreaking today.
Yeah, it is. So he presented this data and he asked the managers, why do you think there's a difference? Because, basically all things are created equal in this role. I mean, it's clearly not experience. As you can see, the upper 50% had less experience. And on average, there was a difference of 80 repair orders between the two groups. And we mentioned hours. How many hours is 80 repair orders? Right? So again, he posed the question, why? And they came to the conclusion that the difference was their DNA. That's the conclusion they came to. Because when they looked at the assessment scores, it became clear that over time, the managers, either knowingly or not, started hiring people with higher mental ability scores and higher productivity scores. So Ted, yeah, most of our clients, they quickly learn the importance of using this tool for almost every role in the organization. And today, that's why no matter what the job, if you don't get hired at Sewell without taking a Trego assessment, I mean, that's really the case with many of our clients as well.
Well, I mentioned still groundbreaking today. And nobody more important than that service advisor who touches so many customer interactions throughout the day. Joe, how else do dealers use GoTrego?
Really, college recruiting. The other thing Carl pioneered was the concept of not hiring ex-car people. He basically said that's just recycling them. And so he wanted fresh talent that he could train and groom to his culture. So he would say, give me the right talent and I'll teach them the car business. I mean, it's all based on the Marriott premise that you start with the right people, you train, you motivate them, give them opportunity for advancement, and the organization will succeed. Well, Carl found that colleges gave him the fresh talent he was looking for. I mean, his team goes out to local universities and they'll interview and assess anywhere from 50 to 100 students to make sure he gets the talent he wants. Operative word is wants. Again, because if you reference his book, you'll see that he states he does not hire the best available. He keeps recruiting until he finds the one he wants. And we help make that happen for him.
Everybody today in our audience, I know you spend a lot of resources on making sure you develop your team and train your team. If you want to learn more about the secret sauce that the Sewell organization has been using for a long time, it's GoTrego. And Joe, if our audience wants to take a next step, learn more about GoTrego, what you could do for them in their particular situation, and maybe have some questions for you, how it would apply. What's the best way for our audience to reach out?
Well, Ted, that's a great question, because I've been doing this a long time, and explaining how an assessment can help, it's kind of like trying to explain a spiral staircase without using your hands. It's really tough to do, right? So what we like to do is give folks an opportunity to test drive it. So if anyone would like to learn more, we'd be extremely happy to assess their next set of finalists so they can experience this firsthand. It's the best way to answer all the questions. And we'll do that on us, right? So just reach out to me right there at joe@gotrego.com and just say, hey, I want a test drive. And my team will hop on it and we'll make sure we take care of you right away. And if you'd like to just, get some more information and have me answer a few questions, please don't hesitate to call me directly or text me. I'll be very happy to visit with them.
You could see Joe's information in the scroll down below, everybody. GoTrego.com, the best in the business. Joe Kistner, CEO of GoTrego, long time industry expert, consulting and advising the Sewell organization. Joe, fascinating stuff. I'm going to invite you back. Let's take this up another couple notches at the next roundtable, and let's dive a little bit deeper. Joe, very grateful to have you here today with us at the roundtable.
You got it, Ted. We'll be glad to do that. Thank you.
Joe Kistner, everybody. He's the CEO of GoTrego, the right person, right job, right now, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Do you want to provide your customers with an exceptional car buying journey rather than just a transaction? As Carl Sewell advocates in his book, Customers for Life, the key to ensuring customer loyalty lies in delivering an enjoyable and memorable experience. And that starts with assembling the right team. But how do you guarantee that you're hiring the best talent for the job? According to Sewell, one of the most effective methods is using a pre-employment assessment called the Trego Personnel Survey. which consistently identifies top talent and transforms company culture. While many dealerships recognize the importance of recruiting top talent, the challenge lies in identifying such talent during the hiring process. Enter Go Trego. With over 40 years of research and expertise in the auto industry, Dr. Trego and his team have been instrumental in helping clients like Sewell and many others figure out if the applicant can and will do the job. We adopt a scientific approach to evaluating candidates' behaviors and accurately predicting their job performance. Say goodbye to the frustrations of dealing with subpar hires. With Go Trego, you can transform your staff into the happiest, friendliest, and most reliable team your customers have ever encountered, ensuring customers for life. Let Go Trego guide you in selecting the perfect talent for your organization.
It's time to discover a brighter future together. Fixed Ops Roundtable certified partners can maximize their results with their products and market their certified partnership status. Start discovering your possibilities at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Video is transforming our industry. Let's learn how to keep things fresh with the experts from Affinitiv.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. We have an exciting panel with Affinitiv today. Our topic talking about how video transforms the service experience. Ted, who are our special guests with us today?
Sarah, we want to welcome back Affinitiv to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. With us today are Dean Martin and Michael Cappelli, both with Affinitiv. Gentlemen, first time on the roundtable. Welcome to the conference.
Hello, everyone.
Exciting topic. Sarah, you and I have talked a little bit about it before, but video is positively impacting the service experience. We hear things about the experience economy. So Affinitiv is experts in the arena. So I'm excited to dive in and hear all about what's happening and hear the latest, as is our audience. So Sarah, I'll have you take it away.
Thank you, Ted. So Michael, I'll start with you. You know, a lot of dealerships are talking about how technology can really help in the marketplace. So what challenges have video helped with dealers?
That's a great question. And one of the biggest benefits of video has been the fact that your technicians are these faceless individuals that are in the shop. And when recommendations come forward from the service advisor, there's sort of this nebulous, well, where did that really come from? And through my own personal experience, you have, consumers feel like, well, you're just trying to sell me something. But that video shows the actual parts, the actual failures, whatever items that technician is recommending, really brings it to the forefront and pulls that faceless person into view, and it works beautifully.
Michael, you're right, because historically in the dealership, that's what goes on behind that garage door. Okay. I don't see what happens back there. I don't see who's working on the car. And now to bring a face and do it by video and to make it convenient on the customer's phone where they can watch that. Michael, I would imagine that once a customer receives a video the first time, they're going to come to expect that every time they come back to the dealership. What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you start that process, it's an expectation that's never going to go away. And when you do that for your consumer, right, you basically used to show them the dresser. And now all of a sudden you're opening up those drawers and showing them the details of their own personal vehicle. And it really drives a constant connection that needs to continue.
Dean, Affinitiv is involved in all facets of automotive retail, and especially in this niche right here in fixed operations. So congratulations to you on the success that you're having. Dean, any data on how has video impacted customer satisfaction? Because we know how important that is to dealers.
To look beyond just the results of an inspection and connect directly with the technician and the service advisor.
Well, Michael, I want to ask you this question because we've seen so much popping up in the industry. Everyone's talking about AI. They're talking about all of these enhancements to the customer experience. But how has video changed the industry landscape?
Well, one of the biggest impacts that I've seen being in retailers is the fact that they're now able to identify frequencies of failures, so to speak, for that OEM, right? Remember, we're actually starting to track, we're able to notice that, okay, this is happening in this brand at this point in time. That is a huge success because now the retailers can build their recommendations around those points. And this helps them drive increased sales tremendously.
And Michael, as another follow-up, if I may, the technology we've seen has typically been on the variable side of the business, right? Sales and then finance, F&I, the business office. But now we see all this technology coming into service. And now it's all starting to come together. How the customer, like Dean said, can give us a relatively quick approval rather than wait, and keep that car up on the lift or pull it back out into the lot and then have the tech bring it back in. Michael, this saves a lot of steps, I would imagine, on the part of the technician and the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about this. There are shops out there with 24 plus bays. And if you can imagine the distance between an advisor and that 24th bay, that's a long walk, right? So all of this information is now transferred seamlessly, digitally, and those images are instantly put in the advisor's hands, which allows them to present quicker to the consumer, allows the consumer to get that information swiftly, and now we've got an answer in half the amount of time, if not more. So it's a tremendous advantage to go to tech video, and of course around that electronic MPI.
Sarah, just relating to the entire appointment process of the customer before they come into the dealership, in the BDC, because more and more dealerships have a service BDC now, I'm seeing. I would imagine this helps the communication overall, rather than the customer having to continue to call in to get a status on their vehicle, and, helps that communication throughout the process, Sarah.
Oh, this is huge for the entire customer experience. Time is the most important component of the advisor's day, of the technician's day, and same thing with the service BDC. So having video, having the ability to get that information to a customer quickly, 40% of phone calls are status calls in a dealership typically. So to cut down on any of that incoming phone call piece is huge.
Dean, we're hearing a lot, especially the last couple of years, that, if I'm a Toyota dealer, my competition is not necessarily the nearest Toyota dealer. It's all the independents I have to drive by in order to get to the dealer, okay, and to get my vehicle serviced. So I would imagine, well, you tell us, what advantages does video, like the videos that Affinitiv helps dealers provide and create, what advantages does that give the franchise dealer over the independents?
Yeah, one of the biggest that we're seeing is it allows the technicians to show their expertise, right? I like to kind of use the comparison of if you're having a heart attack and you go to the hospital, are you going to ask the receptionist what's wrong with you, or are you going to wait for the cardiologist who specializes in that, right? So, and it really allows them to show that expertise and why something might be occurring in great detail versus just the IRF who might just be applying a blanket guess for what's happening. The other thing too is when you look at something like vehicle pickup and drop off, there is a connection with, the ability to still stay connected with your customers, because now you don't have a face-to-face interaction with them. They're coming to pick up the vehicle and drop it off. So now the technician and the service advisor can send video back and forth with that customer to show them exactly what's happening and their recommendations with the vehicle.
Dean, if I may, as a follow-up, you and I were speaking in the green room that there are dealers who have the technology at their dealership, but for some reason, they have not yet deployed the technician videos for one reason or another. It could be a change in management. It could be that they felt their technicians were not ready or something along those lines. There's various reasons, but I do see that, okay, in a lot of really good dealerships who have yet to deploy this, and they could be so much better. Dean, if you wouldn't mind, maybe speak to us a little bit about
yeah,
that.
for sure. Look, technology it's the great amplifier, right? So if you have great processes in place at your dealership, then you're going to leverage technology like video to be able to have greater success in that front, right? If your processes are broken, then technology is going to amplify the fact that you're not using that technology to make your processes and workflows more efficient.
Yeah, if I can add to that, you're looking at a culture change at these facilities, right? So when that culture does shift, the numbers you can't deny them. It's tremendous. And I've watched it happen in a lot of stores. And when the light bulb turns on, the success is incredible.
Michael,
I love.
Go ahead, Sarah.
And Michael, I love that point that you made about the numbers, right? Because that is such a big thing that dealerships are always watching. They're always looking at the KPIs, and they don't necessarily realize, what's going on when the customer goes to the competition or that potential loss in market share. So customer retention, I know, is a huge component that Dean just touched on, and Michael, you as well. But how has this overall, the video component helped really prevent that lost market share to the independents?
That's a great question. So the key pull, if you will, is the fact that the technician is now a real person, right? There's a face, and they're actually engaging the consumer on a level that's very personal, in my opinion. If you think about it, our vehicles are almost like getting inside of somebody's wallet. So when you have a technician that can personally say, hey, I'm looking at your specific engine air filter, cabin air filter, where your occupants are. And those technicians, when they do a good job at tech video, will say at the end, and if you have any questions, please let your advisor know, and I'll be happy to come talk to you personally. So that really has a huge impact on the industry. And we're seeing it at Affinitiv tremendously. And it's really brought a lot of success to retailers.
Michael, is it hard to get started? And how does Affinitiv help dealerships get started with this process? Because as we mentioned earlier, there could be some reluctance to do it. There could be some things that we're not aware of. How do you help the dealers do that?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. There's a lot of pushback that you'll get in some cases, but when you get a champion in the store, so the first thing we do at Affinitiv is we'll do webinar training, and then we'll be on site, shoulder to shoulder, actually going through the experience with the technician. And once we get a champion in the shop, you'll see it migrate right through the entire shop. The success is there. You'll start seeing the technicians that tend to lean on using their laptop computer on their tool chest to fighting wanting to put the app on their phone. But now you can't take pictures. And the success in our reporting, showing media, video, photo, and so forth, it just drives the numbers straight up, and everybody starts to gain buy-in. But that shoulder-to-shoulder experience is extremely important.
Dean, we've heard a lot about transparency, okay, in the process. I would imagine this increases it tremendously. Can you speak to that, along with some of the reasons why customers may defect from going to the dealership and going somewhere else?
Yeah, and we know that location and price are two of the big ones, right? And what video allows dealers to do is really showcase that, obviously, the expertise. But there's got to be something more than just lattes and Wi-Fi at the the service lounge, right? There's got to be a way to get customers engaged in the process for learning about all the specific details on their vehicle and what matters most. To share a recent experience that I had a sports coupe that I took in for service mid-year last year that had a leaky front tire. So I took it to my local tire shop, and they waited all afternoon. They replaced the valve stem. They were convinced the valve stem was a problem. Take the car home, wake up the next morning, it's lost another 6 pounds of air. Take it back to the tire shop. They tell me it's going to be a few hours until we can get to it. And then I meet with them at the end of the day at 5:30, and they tell me, oh, I think you have a crack on your wheel. So they gave me the options, which was, A, repair it, or, go through the dealership and, go that way. The next day, I took it to my service advisor that I know by name, Joey. That's first thing he said was, if you had brought it into my team, we know exactly what happens with your particular model and trim level, that those wheels are known to crack because they're brittle. So I could have saved 2 days and the cost of replacing a valve stem if I had just gone to my dealer and gotten the information directly from the source.
That's such a big deal, Dean. I mean, it really is that transparency, that peace of mind when you go to a dealership and you have somebody that's an expert in your vehicle working on your car. It makes such a big difference.
Yep.
Just to ask a follow-up question to that, what are some other ways that really make people want to come back to the dealership with Affinitiv when they're using that tool? How does that continue to help the customer?
Yeah, there's the transparency component, which is huge, right? But look, video has encroached in every area of our lives, right? You have dash cams to document your entire journey on the road. You have your doorbell cam, which is showing the play-by-play for your dog chasing the FedEx guy down the road, right? You have celebrities who are engaging directly with their fan base on social media, with live streaming. So, this is what customers expect. This is what they are used to. So, video is it's the same thing with a technician and service advisor that we're providing for what they're already used to.
And Dean and Michael, if I could take it a step further, we are actually seeing now in dealerships who are really getting good at the tech videos. We're seeing some dealerships now have service advisors actually doing video updates for the customer as well. I don't know if either of you want to speak to that, but it falls in line, Dean, with exactly what you said. That's the customer's that's the expectation, not in the future, now, today.
Well, and to add to that, what we're seeing is you get technicians who produce these videos really well. They get used to it. They have a face on camera, and they can explain a lot of these things very well. And so there's also an opportunity to make that a public facing video for dealer websites or their social media to explain the inner workings of how, the mechanics work of a vehicle.
Michael, anything you'd want to add to that as well?
Yeah, this is also driving the fact that retailers now offer the ability to finance service. That didn't exist 10 years ago. You start taking videos of things that need replacing, the consumer is driven to action. And if their funds aren't there to complete that action, they're looking for ways to get it done now because they see how important it is. So tech video is really driving a lot of different aspects of the service department process. And it's really, really escalating the volume of money to be made to keep it simple.
Michael, I've heard this a couple times. Dealership personnel saying, or managers saying, I didn't know Affinitiv does all this. I didn't know they help and they provide the tech videos. Affinitiv does a whole lot, Michael. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that? Because, I think there's a lot here.
Yeah, so Affinitiv does an end-to-end customer experience, but specifically in the service department, the service experience from start to finish, from appointment setting, either online to actual call-in appointments, to smart lane check-in, which is our product to document vehicle condition, another big area where retailers save money because that scratch or ding or dent or wheel scuff was there when they came in. And the retailer, of course, if they don't document condition, are going to get accused of damaging the vehicle. And then into your electronic multi-point inspection to truly document what is needed for that vehicle and not just a fluffed up, hey, you should do this. And then gaining that AI aspect of the fact that we know this particular OEM's product is failing in certain points. Unfortunately, that happens. And now as a retailer, we have those data points to say, hey, at this frequency, our advisors will recommend a look at that area specifically, or they'll build that into their multi-point inspection specifically. And then on to the actual delivery, right? Customer experience on a quick turnaround, a quick answer, an opportunity to finance those items that aren't necessarily in the checking account at this time that they need to do. And then to a service delivery, a state-of-the-art service delivery where we hand them the keys, the bill's taken care of, and they're down the road in a timely manner.
Dean, this is an exciting time to be in the automotive retail business.
Absolutely. And at Affinitiv, our focus is customer-driven marketing and data-driven software. So that's what we do. That's our big focus, and will continue to be all the way through the next decade.
Sarah, I don't know about you, but I've learned quite a bit about how video is transforming that service experience. And, we're hearing so much, Sarah, that, customers don't like having to come to a dealership or spending time in a dealership. But Sarah, this really cuts down on that time, which is arguably now the most important thing to all of us, Sarah.
I mean, this really gives the customer so much information, and they can choose, what to watch. They can feel that trust and that credibility with their advisor and with their technician. So this is absolutely huge. And I'm sure, Michael and Dean, there's probably a lot of dealers watching today that are wondering, all right, well, what do I do now? How do I get started? So, Michael and Dean, where do dealers go from here?
Yeah, they can go to affinitiv.com and click any of the links to all of these products. And we'll be happy to stick around and chat with all of you and have a great time sharing ideas and experiences.
Dean, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah. So, and we have a wealth of data, and we've done independent studies where we have our own surveys where we go out to the market and we truly understand what's happening within a lot of different areas. And look, we are at an age where the average vehicle is 12 and a half years old. So the service opportunity for dealerships is tremendous at this point. And, with vehicle pickup and delivery, that's going to continue to grow. Video communications is vital to that. And, we're looking at an improvement in workflow overall.
And remember, we're well into Q2, everybody. So we're working through May. We don't have a lot of time left in Q2, and we'll be in Q3 before you know it. So let's jump on board and get tech video rolling.
Well, Michael and Dean, I'll take you up on that because it seems every few months the industry continues to change and there's more happening. So I'd like to invite you and Affinitiv back at the next roundtable, and let's take this up a couple notches and find out this fall what's next, because there's no doubt in our minds that there's more coming, and it gets better and better. So on behalf of the roundtable, I want to thank Dean Martin, Michael Cappelli. They are with Affinitiv, affinitiv.com. Affinitiv is transforming that service experience through video and a number of other technologies. You need to check them out. A lot of the dealers here at the roundtable are taking advantage of the Affinitiv technology. And Michael and Dean, on behalf of the roundtable, thanks for all that you do for automotive retail.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
The team from Affinitiv here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I now have the most positive, engaging, and informative service experience right in the palm of my hand, all with Affinitiv's new Tech Video. This great new feature is part of their Service Lane technology suite, and it's available as a standalone benefit or to enhance your MPI service. With Tech Video, I can record and re-record high-definition videos, detailing the entire inspection process, whether it's explaining services performed, additional service recommendations, sending an estimate, or even thanking a customer. Tech Video allows us to personally communicate with our customers directly via SMS or email, so we can show them any of our recommendations in real time. Videos can be up to 7 minutes in length and only stream when the customer selects to view. No buffers or downloading, only instant playback. When a customer responds, it will appear instantly in our message chat. How great is that? So let your service team experience smoother transactions, easier communication, and happier customers with Affinitiv's Tech Video. To learn more, contact Affinitiv today online at affinitiv.com.
As a vehicle owner, maintenance comes down to three things: safety, reliability, and performance. We are recommending the BG Platinum 44K Fuel System Cleaner to improve the reliability and performance of your vehicle. Much like a dirty barbecue grill, carbon buildup is inevitable and builds up on fuel injectors and combustion chambers, reducing fuel efficiency and power. Without proper maintenance, you will experience hard starts, rough idle, and reduced fuel mileage. Adding BG Platinum 44K is like giving your fuel system a minor tune-up, removing carbon from critical components to restore fuel efficiency and engine responsiveness while reducing harmful emissions. When used with BG Advanced Formula MOA, this service is backed by the lifetime BG Protection Plan at no additional charge and covers up to $4,000 in service-related repairs. Be good to your car and choose BG Platinum 44K Fuel System Cleaner today.
So being a legacy automotive retailer, we've used a number of different companies over the years to help us train our people and educate our people on everything from sales process to customer service to you name it, anything relating to retail automotive. But in today's world, particularly since COVID, we really set out to try to find a partner that had a much more progressive, contemporary approach to automotive sales, automotive service, customer relations in general. And when we did that, our research led us to the folks at Quantum 5.
Anything that you can do consistently the same way gets better. So what Quantum gives us the ability to do, or has taught us how to do, is follow a very specific framework that delivers a very specific result every time. And that has been invaluable both to our veterans that have been in the business longer than me and the people that we're hiring new. Quantum came into the store as a partner. They've executed on that on every call, every interaction. And what our veteran staff finds to be the most beneficial is they get to continue to learn.
We know that Quantum is more than a vendor, they're a partner. They're actually a part of our business, a core part of our business and our daily processes. When I got into the car business many, many years ago, it was about control this, control the customer, control this. Well, now customers have as much information as dealers. So now it's more about controlling the process, understanding the customer. And that's what Quantum brings to the table. It allows you to have control of a process, understand your customer and your customer's needs, and deliver the relevant information that they need to make that informed decision, ultimately in purchasing a car, but starting with gaining that critical appointment. Quantum puts our client advisors on a pathway to prosperity. Our newer advisors see our seasoned advisors and the success they're having, and the fact that they're bought into the system and they've been on this system for years shows the new client advisors that if you buy in similarly, you're going to yield the same results, if not better. I can't speak enough to what Quantum has meant to our business and to the growth and development of our client advisors.
Take a moment now to pull out your flip phones and scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of the event. Remember, every vote counts. So make sure to put your superpowers to use and vote for the 5 best speakers or panelists whom you think are the bomb.com. And don't forget, you can only vote once. Next up, Julie Douglas and her team get the inside scoop into the real world of modern payment acceptance.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Julie Douglas, the president and sales lady extraordinaire from Dealer Pay, is with us. Julie, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. So good to be here.
Great to have you. And I know today we're going to do something a little bit different because you wanted the roundtable audience to hear from dealer clients, similar to the folks who are watching. Explain and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So oftentimes in our previous segments that we've done, we've introduced Dealer Pay and our full point of sale platform as being a full dealership solution. But because we are on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I thought we would really kind of dial in a little bit more on fixed ops. And really the point of showing these videos and doing a lot of this is to show the dealers that we treat them very similar to how they're treating their customers out in the field. So should we go ahead and watch a couple of these and then maybe talk about it after?
Yes, I think for the first one, we're going to head out to our friends at the All-Star organization.
Yes.
Great organization in fixed ops and particularly parts. And I think you've got the parts manager paired up with, who is this from your organization now in the videos?
This is Molly. She is our director of dealer implementations and dealer relations.
All right. So with that, let's go over to All-Star and here we go.
I am here with Ben, the parts director at All-Star CDJR. Ben, how do you tailor your approach to customer services to meet the different needs and preferences of different customers?
Well, we have a large wholesale business and we make use of the mobile card readers. So when our drivers do get to their destination, they can accept mobile payments from the customers at the site. They feel that this is very convenient.
Okay, great. And what usually results from having this approach?
Well, we'll get customers that will call us back frequently and will more than likely reorder parts from us in the future.
Okay, great. It's always great to keep that customer retention up.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Julie, I know I've met the dealer at this store, and it's a fascinating dealership because the dealership, the owner started off in the parts business and got into fixed ops early and is a huge parts dealer. So tell us a little bit more from the Dealer Pay perspective.
Sure. So just like this dealer's a little bit different than some, and they really have a huge emphasis in their wholesale parts department. Mobile's a big deal for them, right? But I'll tell you, Ted, it's not like that at all our dealers, So similarly to how he describes how he does a custom approach to his individual customer needs is similar to how we do it with our individual dealers' needs. So we're able to really customize a payment solution that fits best for them, whether they're mobile, whether they have service advisors or a cashier. It's exciting to know that the similarities between how dealers treat their customers are how we treat our dealers in the same fashion.
So you do customize this according to the dealership. I know you have an implementation team. I've seen that. I've seen Molly and others involved in that. And you go in store and you make it work for them, with their, geography and so on.
Yeah, and what's great about our team is we're not just saying point here, click there to make it happen. We're actually showing them how our solutions can help their departments be more productive. So, this is going to eliminate these steps. This is going to make it more convenient for your customer. This is going to make your office manager happy. Those types of things. So our team is not just skilled on how the software works, but how it actually works inside the dealership's environment.
Now, Julie, transparency is a big topic for dealers today. We're going to look at another video with the same dealership and hear a little bit about how that works for them.
Perfect.
Here we go.
Then how do you ensure transparency and clarity throughout the payment process with your customers, especially with PayShare?
Well, we have clear signage in the parts department that explains the 2% surcharge, and we believe it's great to be open and honest with the customers at all points during the sale.
Okay, great. Do you believe that has any effect on your customer retention?
No, I don't believe so. I believe that the surcharge is an industry-wide standard now, and as long as we're being open and honest with customers, we'll have no issues.
Okay, great. It's always great to be open and honest and keep those customers happy.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So dealers are talking about this surcharge. It's a big point, a big conversation right now. I'm hearing about it. Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective.
Well, we focused on it a lot with my last segment, and I actually just did a webinar with NADA similar to it. It is the big topic, right? Because dealers are looking for areas to increase productivity in every way they can, right? So credit card processing in general is a fairly large expense. He mentioned transparency. That's exactly what we do when we do pricing for our dealers. If a dealer comes to us and says, hey, I've been using this program for, 20 years and I'm interested in surcharging, can you tell me what that looks like? So dealer pays approach is different than just, giving them some elevated rates, knowing that we can make a whole bunch of money on it. We're going to show different options to the dealers so they know exactly what's going to work best for their specific customers. So truth be told, Ted, yes, we have a program called PayShare that allows them to surcharge. We make sure all of the rules and regs are in place so that they're 100% compliant. Dealers can't actually do anything in my system without being compliant. So we're rule followers, and we want to make sure that the dealers get the benefit of the surcharge while still maintaining that transparency and openness with their customers to keep those CSI scores high.
So same thing, you're going to customize this because I imagine it's going to work different in different states. Some places you can and can't do it. And you're going to help them. I heard about signage is required, a disclosure, and making sure they do things on the up and up.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned states because New York and Maine have said, well, we don't want you to surcharge anymore, Mr. Dealer. We have a new program out there. And the new program is not really new in a sense, but it is new to these states. And it's called cash discount or dual pricing. So a lot of the people don't really understand what the differences are, but we do. So if a dealership comes to us and says, I want a surcharge, but they have stores in New York or Maine, I'm going to have to show them the way they have to do it slightly different to make sure they're compliant with the state regulations. So cash discounting or what they call dual pricing, consumer choice, there's a million names out there, but our software is designed to make sure, again, that it looks and feels right, the language is correct, and the dealers know exactly how to present the solutions to their customers, maintaining full transparency.
All right, for the next one, I think we're going out to California, to Sacramento, to our friends at the Nilo Company, and we're going to hear a little bit about how time is money.
Perfect.
Let me bring this one up here. Make sure I got it all queued up here and ready to go. All right, here we go.
Today I'm here at Land Rover Rockland with Alan. He is the service manager. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Marielle. How are you?
Good. So today I want to ask you a few questions about your service department.
Yeah.
What collaborations do you do with your other departments like sales and parts and make your customers' experience here a little seamless?
Well, yeah, we are big on meetings, which are productive. We have a meeting with our technicians and our parts department, and we discuss ways we can streamline.
Perfect. And so do you think that you guys doing that all together, does that one save time for your customers being here?
Yeah, it's obviously all focused on how we can improve our customer service. And as you said, time is a huge factor for our customers. So we want to make sure that we have everything lined up the best that we can before a customer comes in.
I've met this gentleman, by the way. If you notice, he's got the accent perfect, okay, for a Jaguar. He does.
Good.
So tell us about from your perspective.
So, I mean, the original question was about how, all the departments and the dealers communicate together for the best customer outcome. Similar to how DealerPay does it too. We've got salespeople, we've got the implementation staff, such as Mala and her team, and then the ongoing support. But the whole point of it is so the customer experience is, as favorable as it can be. But he also emphasized time, efficiency, productivity, things like that. The modern consumer is very much dialed in to what's happening, in the dealership, but they also have a million other things going on. I'm sure, Ted, just like you do, sometimes you wish you had a couple more hours in the day to get things done. So we want to make sure that everything that our services do to help these dealers is fast. And it shows that way to the customers as well.
Are the people we're meeting from the DealerPay side in these videos, are they all part of your implementation team? Because I've seen a number of them before on social media.
Yes. So we have an implementations crew that's national. Some out on the west, some out on the east, a lot of them up the middle, up and down. But yes, we have a staff that goes out in person to make sure these trainings take place on site, just to make sure we're covering best practices, all those things we talked about with talk tracks for surcharging, and just really how to utilize the system to benefit the most out of it with respect to success at their dealership.
Now, Julie, I know some people watching are going to say fixed operations is different because you've got things like cost estimates, timelines. I understand the next video, we're going to hear a little bit about that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Let's roll it.
Here we go.
How do you navigate with the customer's concerns with time, the cost estimates, and all of those?
Yeah, so that starts from the first contact with the customer. If they're coming in and we know what parts they need, we'll do the research to make sure that we have the parts.
Gotcha. So, in your opinion, how does that affect your CSI scores?
It's huge because I think the number one thing that customers looking for is obviously repairs in a timely manner, but communication is key. If we can communicate clearly to the customer that we have those delays, and so they're somewhat expecting,
of course, yeah,
then it goes a long way.
Perfect. Well, I do appreciate your time and thank you for everything that you've given us, your feedback and input.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Julie, from the DealerPay perspective, tell us a little bit about that communication, how important that is.
Sure. So that's Marielle on the West Coast. She's very good. Same with the dealership. We're going to communicate up front. After we've learned what their needs are, we're going to communicate any potential challenges. Different from a dealership in the perspective that we're talking about implementations challenges. Like, are there going to be any challenges with your network? Do we have to have certain firewalls or ports open to make your terminals work? Do we have any staff members that could be off on the week of training? How do we overcome these things just to make sure that we have the most seamless and transparent solution possible when it comes to implementation. And it sounds like the same is going on at Nilo. They're very open with their customers to communicate any potential challenges. But I think keeping that communication open and transparent is what's keeping that relationship just as positive as possible. So I think that's a great interview that Marielle did at Nilo, because I feel like we're very much the same.
So watching these interviews, Julie, I'm looking at it from the outside saying, okay, the processing of the payment is the last thing, or one of the very last things the customer is going to remember at the dealership. I don't know of too many companies, if any, who are involved with processing payments and transactions who come to the dealership and spend the time that you do with the personnel, understanding their needs, understanding the industry. Julie, it simply doesn't exist out there outside of dealer pay.
It doesn't. I mean, we do have some competitors out there that will show up in person, but like I said, because our solution has evolved to where we're covering the needs of all the departments in the dealership, and we're introducing new technologies like mobile, we're introducing new payment solutions like surcharging, and I'm just naming a few. We feel like dedicating the time and the resources to educate the dealers goes a lot further than just scheduling a Zoom call and hoping that they're paying attention. No offense to my dealers, but they are doing their job at the dealership, and it's our job to make sure they don't have to be an expert at payment processing. They just have to be an expert at their job at the dealership, and we show them all the shortcuts and the things that they need to do to be most effective.
All right, we're going into one more store here. We're going to hear from one more dealership, and let's cue up the video, and here we go.
Hello, my name is Jessica Jones Sanders, and I work at Hall Imports here in Brookfield.
Awesome. How do you ensure that customers feel welcomed and valued when they bring their vehicles into your car dealership?
Honestly, for me, that starts before they even get here, because I highly value every person that trusts us enough to bring their vehicle in for service. But when they do arrive, I welcome them with a smile. I always make sure all of their questions are answered and just give them the utmost respect as they deserve.
Awesome.
Julie, you got a good team there, and that is very important.
Thank you. Yes, that's Elizabeth. She's my up north gal. She is very good. One thing about Elizabeth that mirrors what her interview is about is she never does not smile. So, I mean, attitude is everything. A lot of times when you're switching a payment solution, it's not always perceived with optimism. Okay, so a lot of these dealers are like, oh no, I've got to do this thing. It's really not that bad, but I tell my team all the time, when you're talking about transitioning someone to help improve their processes, it goes a long way when you smile and you show them how it really is going to help their job. It really is going to help their customers. And at the end of the day, it's going to overall be a more effective solution. So, smiling attitude, just having that positivity, I think, just like she said at Hull, it goes a long way.
All right. So convenience, ease in using the process, speeding up the process for the consumer. Last thing they remember, you do help with things such as surcharging if a dealer wants to do that, and doing it ethically and doing it right, doing it properly. You help with the communication. What am I missing, Julie? Besides that, you do this just for dealers.
Well, we're continuing to grow. So we've got a lot of new features and functions on deck. I've always told, people who have interest, I stay in my lane. We are a payments and point of sale company, but a lot of the technologies that we're continuing to develop that are new and modern are features and functions on the back end that people don't traditionally think about. It's not the sexiest topic, but we talk about fraud prevention. We talk about, the ability to weed out certain transactions that may raise red flags. That's just one example. But yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to grow. We're excited about the staff that we have and the dealers that we're working with. And we're going to keep these attributes ongoing. So I'm glad that we're working with the dealers and they have these same types of attributes towards their customers and fixed ops.
Julie Douglas, everybody. She is with a company called Dealer Pay. She's the president. She's the sales lady extraordinaire. Julie, you didn't start doing this just last month. How long you been?
Proven effective is that we understand the dynamics of accepting payments in each department and can offer customized solutions that guarantees to exceed your expectations. Our point of sale solutions provide customers with multiple ways to pay. With a strong emphasis on both security and modern technology, we cover all aspects of the purchase and the last experience your customer has in the dealership. It's important to us that your customers are satisfied and your dealership is properly funded for every sales transaction. We are advocates for dealers and recommended in the industry. Let us help you get set up with a seamless transition. Contact me directly. Julie Douglas, Dealer Pay. Fast, organized, secure.
Whether you consider it evolutionary or revolutionary, change is reshaping the franchise dealer business, and we're not talking about electric vehicles. There's another promising opportunity that demands your attention. It's the fast-growing and increasingly lucrative customer pay parts, tire, and service market. Consider what's happening around you. Average vehicle age is at an all-time high and rising faster than ever. More than 60% of passenger vehicles are 8 years old or older. 25% are at least 16 years of age. Together, this represents 244 million prospective parts, tire, and service targets.
Why do they have to provide us their first name, last name, PII every time they book a service appointment or every time they want to get any information from us? So I think that we need to find ways like Amazon or like other retailers, Apple, do, and automatically know who they are and anticipate what they want. And with AI and a lot of the things that I've been exposed to, especially recently, I think that AI will not only connect the engagement with the consumer, it'll also connect technology. Maybe we'll talk about this later on the show, but we're looking to see really how do we also work with our strategic partners, the ones that do the alignment racks, and instead of competing with people, developing relationships with platform partners and to enhance the customer experience overall. I think that's the theme.
Steve Greenfield at Automotive Ventures, what does radical change look like to you over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, first, Ted and Sarah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. So it's good to be here. So interesting. So I've been almost 25 years in auto, and I think I recall 3 times where dealers were going to be driven out of business, right? First was early days in the internet where we were going to sell all cars online. We weren't going to need salespeople. And why do we need so many dealers if people were going to be buying online, right? You only need one dealer in every city to deliver the cars. Obviously, that didn't manifest itself. And we see, if nothing else, even coming out of COVID, essentially all cars are sold face-to-face still. Number 2 would have been sort of during COVID more recently, where the automakers clued in and said, oh, we're going to sell directly to consumers and we won't need as many dealers. And the dealers that are left are going to be relegated to more of an agent as opposed to a franchise. And that clearly hasn't happened. And we see new car inventory mounting now, and dealers aren't really too much worried about OEMs going directly. And then, lastly, but not least, was EVs. And with EVs, suddenly fixed ops is going to get disrupted, right? Because these cars don't need oil changes and don't need service. And, the cars, you're never going to see the customers. And by the way, with over-the-air updates, we're going to push updates to consumers in their driveway, and they're never going to see the cars again. And the EV demand was overestimated, and I think that the first generation of these EVs have more problems than the ICE comparables, and they're in dealers' bays more often than not, right? So I think if anything, in terms of using the term disruption, we always hear about disruptions, and I'm more convinced, and maybe I'm just getting old, but I'm more convinced that the franchise dealer model is more defensible than it's ever been, which is pretty amazing, right? And great for the dealers that are out there. And it's represented in the resiliency around margins and also the valuations. But I would say that, the one word that I would be concerned with, and Brian's already introduced it, is Amazon, and the fact that, 200 million Amazon Prime subscribers in the US. And by the way, that's more than one for every household. Now are conditioned to sacrifice price discovery for the convenience of having goods delivered often the same day. And so I think that dealers need to be watching this, because there is this chance that at some point a marketplace with the power of Amazon starts to dictate sort of like how consumers interact with brands and with dealers overall. And, I know this is the world that Brian's living in, and good to hear his thoughts, but I do think keeping a watchful eye on making sure that, the relevancy of the franchise dealer model continues to persist is one that's important. And that's the only disruptor that I see that's potentially on the horizon. And, my other panelists may feel differently, but as much as we want to dive into that, I would love to explore that today as well.
Tully, you represent that dealer franchise model at the Nilo company. They are celebrating just over 100 years in business in Sacramento with 10 European luxury dealerships. Tully, your thoughts?
I think Brian said it well, is that when we look at change here, is that all of our manufacturers, all of our vendors or vendor partners, we like to say, don't talk to each other. They try to, but it doesn't work. Yep. And I think that when we look at data is king, yes, that's great. But 2 is that how do we make it easy for the consumer? And I think Brian said it again as well, is that when the car comes in, we should not have to ask their name anymore. We should know what they are. We should be able to go and scan the van or something, right? 2 is when the technician's reviewing and diagnosing the car, the video process that we do should all be seamless. It should all just work, where right now we send a video, and I know people are trying to make that better. It's still, I would say, 70-ish, right? And I think that we really have to work on how do we make consumers trust us better by giving them the information about their car. It's not like dealers want to lie or anything. It's just that people just don't know what to believe. And the more that we have the ability to, when we drive over the tire machine, it's sent off with a picture of the tires with pricing automatically. Oh, what a concept. Next, the technician has video and he talks about stuff. AI should go in and say, hey, your brakes are at 4.3 seconds. Why can't they come over and stick a picture of the brakes right there for us? Two, your headlight is out. It should bring a picture of a headlight over and automatically price that out. It should, all these things, it seems in automotive, it takes a little bit of time for us. We're always like 10 years behind of where we are, where we should be. And I think that when we look at technicians, the skill is incredible, right? I mean, when you talk about EV cars, I mean, people die if they do things wrong. So training and knowledge, Steve's spot on that. EVs are a big deal for the service department. God bless America, the cars aren't built perfect, right? And that's how I make a living in the fixed ops side. But the problem is that people don't understand what EVs are all about. They think the car, I can drive it home and I'll never see the dealer for 4 years, then I'll go and get my next one. Well, you know what? They're going to come in more than that. And I think that we just got to make it easy for the customers to understand the process that we're doing in the service department. That to me is the big win.
Ben, what are you seeing over there at Call Review?
No, I mean, I echo exactly what you said. And I think it is all about the customer, right? And the customer journey and getting them information in their hands. And I think that's one of the areas that's been most overlooked, right? How do we not just do what we're supposed to do on our side, but how do we make it easier for the customer? How do we give them more information? How do we get it so they don't have to keep on calling for status checks? I mean, that's like the number one thing, because we track every single call that comes in and out. The number one call, right, is status check. And if they don't reach your fixed ops department, guess what? They're pinging to get into the sales department, and then that salesperson isn't making a sales call. So understand that the customer just wants to know. And you brought up Amazon. Besides maybe where cars are going to go with Amazon, we want instant gratification. We want to know we're the most important person as the consumer to that dealership and to that fixed ops. So just remember, all they want to know is where their car is and what's the status and what's it going to cost.
Sarah, I think that tees you up real well.
Yeah, he had me at status calls right there. That's a big topic of conversation. And I completely agree on that topic. So many things we are conditioned today to look at our phone to get an update on. Yep. Like we talk about Amazon, and you can pull up where your package is. You can track it on the map. You can see if it's left the facility. You can do that with, ordering a pizza. We do that with DoorDash and other technologies all the time in our daily lives. And that question comes up over 40% of the time in the dealership phone call operations. And it's a real big frustration point in a dealership.
Right. If my doctor's office could let me know 3 days before my appointment, an hour before my appointment, 15 minutes before my appointment, then after my appointment, letting me know where my blood work is, why can't we do it in the car industry?
So Ben, Sarah worked retail for many years. In addition to the Hendrick organization, she ran the business development center at the Scott Clark Automotive Group with 3 really big franchises there in Charlotte, North Carolina. So a lot of commonalities here in what you are seeing and what Sarah has seen on the communication side. Steve, I want to come back to you. We're seeing the EV market. It seems to be a slowdown in that. What are you seeing on your side?
Yeah, I mean, slowdown is an understatement, I think. I think we have satisfied the early adopters. And I think that at this point, we've topped out at just shy of 8% of new passenger vehicles that are EVs. And it is moving from, a Tesla-only market to more of the legacy automakers and the standalone automakers like Rivian, for example. But at this point, despite the tax incentives that are provided through the Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, we were having a hard time breaking through 8% overall. And in terms of used, I mean, there aren't any used vehicles in operation from an EV standpoint. And, you think about how many used vehicles transacted last year. There were about 1.2 million new EVs that sold last year. There were only 220,000 used EVs across the country that transacted last year, right? So it's a rounding error compared to the 40 million plus transactions every year.
A lot of those are rental cars.
A lot of them are rental cars, and a lot of them are Tesla rental cars. So yeah, it's dealers aren't really feeling any heat yet. from all of this. And I think that they aren't really going to until we can break through. And I think battery vehicles are coming. Right now, hybrids are a good bridge technology. So we're seeing more hybrids, which will have their own nuances in terms of service. But for the time being, I think that the proposed demand around EVs has been a little bit too optimistic. And the big uncertainty, Ted, I've talked about this in the past, is what happens in November with the election cycle, because Donald Trump has already made it in no uncertain terms that he intends to dismantle the IRA, which means those tax incentives, which are really the only thing keeping us at 8%, may go away entirely come the new year.
Brian, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on the EVs and on the used EV market at all.
Too. We're projecting it to be at 14% by year end, but Steve's right with all the numbers that he's saying. It's very interesting because this week, specifically yesterday, there was a BZ4X incentive by Toyota for Toyota TM&A, not SET or GST, that caused a huge ripple. And it actually, they had a little higher day supply. From what I understand, they sold out of these BZ4Xs yesterday. They came out with a very large lease incentive. All the employees bought them up. So I don't know what Toyota's intentions were with that, but in a way, it was a genius move, because now they've got ambassadors for EVs in each one of the dealerships across the country. Because now all of a sudden, for $199 a month, yeah, of course I'll consider an EV. I'll consider anything for that, with affordability issues the way they are. So I think that what we're going to see between now and the end of the year is you're not seeing really strong lease incentives overall on ICE engines, but you are starting to see whenever an OEM wants to move EVs, they can move it with leases. They can enhance the residuals. That $7,500 tax credit that Tesla's masterful in marketing and processing, it's not like a cash for clunkers type deal. They have systemized that. I would encourage every dealer to master that, because you're right. There's a good chance, Steve said it, that when Trump goes into office, or if he goes into office, that's going to get repealed. So $7,500 on a 36-month lease is substantial from a money down standpoint, or a 24-month lease. Without that, it'll come to a screeching halt. But I do think that it's more of an affordability issue. It's definitely a geopolitical issue, but people are throwing away their politics when they can lease a vehicle for $200 and something a month.
Yep. And Brian, how is all this impacting the used vehicle market? Because we see some big sways back and forth.
So we're maybe the only. There's other players that guarantee EVs, but we are definitely in that space with Mach-E's, Lightnings. The ones that are the most volatile are the ones that we're putting guaranteed numbers on, regardless of the volume of it. So we're definitely feeling it. So we have to, instead of looking at it once a week or looking at lag measure data, we have to look at a lot more lead measure data to see what is happening in terms of what's the average days on market, what's the scarcity. We're combining all these different data points that we have, but all Elon Musk has to do is say he's going to drop the price $10,000, and you feel it throughout the entire segment. Now you can kind of see, just like with parts or with anything else, that when the supply starts getting to a certain point, that they're going to start putting incentives on it, but it's not guaranteed, and you don't know. Oh, by the way, we're coming out with a new long range battery, so now the one that you have is obsolete, and that technology is, or we're going to come out with this other third motor. It's so agile and it's changing so rapidly, like the topic of this thing, that it's very hard to keep up with. But I would say when it comes to EVs, here's the number one thing that I see. There's Tesla and then there's everybody else. And I was in a friend's Tesla Plaid the other day. Technologically, it's unbelievable. What I thought was very interesting from a service standpoint, we're driving down Alligator Alley and his screen went out. It went completely black. And we didn't have a speedometer, doesn't know how much fuel he's got or charge he's got in the vehicle or anything like that. So I ended up having to stop, and he schedules roadside assistance. They did accommodate us and said, okay, there's going to be somebody coming out. By the way, in the meantime, try this, this, and this. And they were trying to do over-the-air updates with an AI interactive thing. So they didn't just say, come on in and we'll figure it out. They really were problem solving with AI. Wow. And we tried to hit these 3 buttons, and it was basically Control-Alt-Delete, rebooted the whole thing. Would you still like us to come out? No. So I would say that over-the-air update for me was invaluable. And I thought to myself, do you really need as many technicians? The technician capacity shortages, does that relieve a lot of that? Do you really need to come in? Because I think there's this misnomer, like appraisals, hey, we just need to get you in, and then we'll sell you something else while you're there. But I see with remote service all over the country that the people that do remote service or they do some variation of that, customers tend to buy more.
Tully, you're in California. You're in the EV capital. Tell us what you see.
Well, one thing it does scare me is that when your car fails, you pull off the side of the road and you hit Control-Alt-Delete and you drive off again. I mean, honestly, that is pretty scary. But I think when you look at EVs, we are in the EV market. Number one, ID4 market, when it was hot. But right now, ID4s are not as hot as they used to be. They're coming out with a new model. They did the $199 lease for all of our employees. Guess what they did? They unloaded a bunch of cheap cars to somebody, right? Volvo has the same program, right? They have employee leases that gets rid of cars instantly. It doesn't mean that they're going to like them. We see the EV market softening. This is what Steve said, tremendously, because people realize EV markets are grocery getter cars. They're not, I'm going to go traveling cars. I am not going to go to my mother's house 2 days away or a long way away because they're afraid of the car.
Yep.
And two, the quality of electric cars today is perfect for the service department. BMW has done a good job with their i5s. We've had minimal issues with them. The ID4 was a disaster. They sold a lot of cars, but they all have failed and they have a massive recall. So what happens is that the technology's there. We're not there yet. Yes, Tesla has a great car out there, but here's the deal. If you drive in for service, you're not treated very nicely. And so we believe that long-term EVs are just part of the mix until they figure this out, because customers are not happy. That's their second, I got electric car kind of car, right? But I drive my gas car when I really need to go somewhere. And we see that. Hybrids, like Steve said, are huge in the Volvo world. They have a very good Volvo. That's the one, because before the electric car, would turn into the Control-Alt-Delete button. You buy a car, you go home, and then we tow it back in. So I think that when you look at the volume of EV cars, I think it's settling down to where all the early adopters have got their electric cars. God bless every one of them. And now we're finding out what people really want, right? I remember this when General Motors filed bankruptcy. They didn't have any small cars. It took them, less than a year to figure that out. And now guess what everybody wants? They want Suburbans again and Tahoes. So it's just the cycle of what people want, and we have to fit that need. Right. I love EV cars because they're great for the fixed ops department.
Ben, what are you seeing?
All right. So one of my cars is a Tesla. I have battery anxiety every single time. It is a shopping cart. Give me 500 miles to a real 500 miles, then it's a different story. Or truly rapid charging where it could take under 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then it's a different story. But best car I ever drove in a lot of ways. Not running to get another one, right? Like it's not even my primary car anymore. So I'm 100% with what you're saying.
Sarah, what are you saying?
I think it's an interesting topic because, my perspective, there's a lot of country between Los Angeles and New York, and where I'm located, we've got a lot of country roads, a lot of livestock, a lot of farms. And one of the things that has been a challenge, at least where I'm at in North Carolina, is that, a lot of people are uncomfortable with EVs because they don't really understand a lot of the technology that's happening with it. They think it's cool, but that range anxiety, the questions about, well, how does this over update work? Am I going to get stranded in the middle of nowhere where I have lacking cell service and I may not be able to get through to somebody because the connection's that poor? Those are real realities for many, many people across the country. And so, the other piece that for me personally, the EV market hasn't really addressed has been the groups of people that have larger families or that they have the need to transport multiple people across, multiple places. I mean, I've got a family of 5. I can't imagine trying to stuff, 3 car seats in the back of a Tesla. It's not a feasible reality. And so there's pieces that, as people are considering different vehicles and considering what makes sense for their family as they look at their expenses, there's a lot of conversations where the education has to rise to meet consumers where they are and their knowledge and understanding about what EVs are capable of. And then the other piece, the EV market has to consider, what are the capacities that people want in these vehicles? What are the uses and apply them to that.
Steve Greenfield, I'm hearing a lot and meeting a lot about market compression. Every day I'm hearing about, this is not 20 21 or 22 anymore. We're in actually we're maybe a few years behind that. How do you see that playing out this year, and how's that going to affect fixed ops?
Well, the good thing is, we're still going to have a very healthy year from a profitability standpoint by all indications. We're drifting downward, but still top 3, top 4 most profitable years of all time. But I mean, dealers had better be heeding sort of the trend, and they better be looking forward and saying, this is not going to be COVID times anymore. New car inventories and all the issues we're talking about today, new car inventories are mounting, which means there are going to be more incentives. I'm talking to dealers that are selling EVs, but making no front end gross whatsoever on them. And I think that that's going to be true for some of the ICE brands here for the latter half of the year as well, that, the volumes will be back, the incentives will be there, but the profit on the front end of the car deal just might not persist, right? Which would mean much more of an emphasis on fixed operations and the importance of fixed operations to counterbalance this, right? But at the same time, I think dealers shouldn't be delusional that we won't get back to the same sort of margin compression that we were experiencing pre-COVID. And as a result, you got to be on your best game. And I think that some of the dealers or ex-dealers on the call today may attest. There are a lot of dealers out there that maybe haven't quite synced up to that reality yet. They haven't really been on their best game in terms of getting back to the discipline and the practices they had pre-COVID. And it's going to be a rude awakening for those dealers that sort of aren't on their best game, say in the next 9 months, as we get back to more pre-COVID profit margins and the profit margin compression era that we were in pre-COVID.
Brian Kramer, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing the same thing that we saw. I agree with everything Steve said. I'm seeing, remember when mortgages, everybody wanted to be a mortgage broker right for the Great Recession, and anybody could do that, right? And I think that's what happened in the car business with anybody who's selling cars. You could make hundreds of thousands of dollars selling cars, right? And they came into it knowing that, had very little effort, didn't know what was going on, and they didn't realize it was because the volume was so much lower and the margin was at a point that it's not sustainable. The problem now is the hangover is starting to begin, and the units in operation, everybody knows there's a huge drop off, regardless of how good the dealer is after whatever the warranty period is, 3 years, 4 years, the retention of those clients, there's always just a drop. So if you go back 3 years and you start thinking about how many cars were we selling back in 2021, how many cars did we sell in 2022? There was just less supply coming out. So now there's less cars coming in that are under warranty into the service departments. So although you have more diagnostic work, do we have enough diagnostic techs to work on those? And do we have a supply and demand issue? Of course we do. So the maintenance items that feeds most service departments, from my perspective, it's a major problem. It's a major vacuum and it's only going to get worse next year with the units in operation through 25, 26. I mean, everybody needs to get a lot more discipline. And I think that everybody needs to go after RO count and RO volume, and retention should be the number one thing for every dealership overall. I mean, if I was going to focus on one thing, I would focus on retention.
Can I turn our attention, if you would, to new technologies? New technologies are out there in the market. We see a lot coming. Steve, I'm sure you see a lot coming your way as well. And if I can kick this off with Ben. Ben, what do you see in terms of other technologies that we should be keeping our eye on in the industry?
And all the technologies go back to what was just said about retention, right? Mm-hmm. So between AI and video generated, interactions with the customer, that's what it's about. Like, how do you take the data and not just have the data for data's sake, but make it actionable? And not just actionable after, make it actionable while the interaction is happening. That's where I think the biggest change is going to be. Because we've always, like on the call tracking, we've always transcribed the calls. We've always given you the information. We've always had machine learning doing it. But now the ability to give you information back instantly, or the ability to use video to give it back instantly. Or how do we also use this technology to better train our teams to create better engagement and better retention and know more about the customer when they come in, even if it's a first-time customer. So I just think that we're like in the first inning of where the technology is going to bring us over the next couple of years, and how, not only the sales side, but the fixed op side actually needs it even more, because sell the car, come back to fix op. You don't have a good experience with fix ops. You're going down the street and getting it fixed somewhere else, but more importantly, you're not coming back to buy your next car there.
Right.
So let's give you the data and allow you to make decisions sort of on the spot.
Tully, when I visited you at the Nilo company just a little while back, I noticed that you were working with that video technology and expanding it and the use of it. What are you seeing happening in that space?
Well, I think everybody's spot on. I just want to say Brian Kramer is spot on retention. If we would just pay the bonus from the manufacturer on 100% retention, we would be much better off. You know, my target for all our stores is to be 70% or greater. So, you know, that to me is the holy grail number, and it is hard. Your CSI can be perfect and have bad retention. Focus on the retention. Videos help retention, right? So as you were out there, technician videos, yeah. But the problem with technician videos is that I have 350 of those people that do the video a little differently and have background noise, and some don't speak very well, or some say, you know, inappropriate things. This is where we want technology to help us kind of clean things up for us, right? Because I believe the video is a way for the customer to look at their technician and see their car. I don't need to diagnose the car on the video. I just need to have them see what's happening. And then the next piece is oh my God, is have the advisor, right? And that's what, when Ted, when you were out here, we talked about, is that the advisors now are sending videos, these short little 5, 7, 8, 12-second videos. The car is, we're working on it. As you can see, we're working on the car. Bill back here is doing a great job for us. I'll call you back in 30 minutes. Has that just resolved everybody's problem right there? Yes. It slows down the phone calls. We don't want people to call us. We want to call them, as long as they're kept status updates, right? So I think video for us needs to help us clean those up. There's a million people out there that say they can do it, but it really has to be simple for a technician. It's got to be simple for an advisor, which is probably the busiest person at a car dealership. It has to be easy and quality. I don't see why this hasn't happened today. I know that automotive, everything's got to be $7.99 or $19.99, right? I mean, that's what everything wants to be. And, you know, to me, this should be something that's doable.
Ben, it goes back to what you said earlier, the status updates. That's the number one reason. People are calling in for that. Sarah, your thoughts on new technologies and hearing some of the things like Tully having advisors now update via video?
I love everything that everyone has shared today. And I just want to echo another piece that Steve Greenfield had said earlier on a different segment. But one of the things that is really exciting about the technology pieces are the enhancements that it gives the employees to be able to build. And like Tully was saying, you know, not all of our employees are great in front of a camera. Not everybody are as articulate as a, collegiate level, individual. Some of us may speak a little differently or need help in those regards. And there's technology that we should be looking at that helps to enable that productivity. And then as Ben was saying, with status updates, with easing the customer's worry about understanding, what's going on, what's happening, what can I expect? That's the biggest area, as Tully was talking about, in retention. That's the biggest pitfall for it, is just not feeling like they're in the loop. So all of the points today have been fantastic.
Steve, new technologies we need to be aware of?
No, I'm going to be, it's not like I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think that don't look at technologies as a Band-Aid. I think have your strategy for what your consumer experience should be, ideally, and then find technologies that fit and complement, and to Sarah's point, enable your employees to provide a better consumer experience. So I think that that would be the one piece of advice that I would have, is don't look to technologies to solve your lack of process or lack of goals within the organization. Start first with what you think the ideal consumer experience should look like, right, and then go search for vendors that can help complement that.
Agreed.
Brian, last word on that?
So we're well, actually, if I go back and I think about when I was in retail, I spent so much time during COVID focusing on digital transformation, paperless, all of this, try to do a 45-minute delivery, do everything, 100% end-to-end paperless. And I got punched in the face verbally one time by a client, couldn't get a hold of me. We were too busy, submits a chat from the customer lounge because he couldn't get to me. And once he finally did, he started breaking down his experience. He goes, every time I come in for an oil change, I trade out of my vehicle into another vehicle. He goes, and it makes sense financially, and it has every time. He said, but it's mind-boggling to me that you can sell me a car twice as fast as you can change my oil. And every single time that he goes, I don't have to give you any information. You have it all. You know me. And it's just one click and I buy. And it's because it's so simple is why I keep transacting. But when I come in, I have to give 3 different people my information. They keep asking me, is that my car? They're paging, overhead. And he goes, I feel like I just went from the future into the past. And there's like a digital Berlin Wall right through the middle of your showroom. He goes, and I don't know that you see it. And I didn't. So I really had to look at myself in the mirror and go back and retrace it. And I'm like, wow, he goes, from my perspective, being able to do it that quickly on one side of the showroom and then also having people that haven't transformed on the other side, mind-boggling to me. So I started working on a project and I never got to see it to fruition, but I'm working on it with Toyota Hollywood. And it goes something like this. When the client pulls up, we're using UVI, the alignment rack, tread depth. So all of that is just data. And if you think about the whole, like Steve's saying, the whole customer journey and the workflow, each one has data points throughout the whole thing, regardless of how the tech is connected in the tech stack. So what we're going to do is by the time the client gets out, obviously they're already writing it up, but we're also going to give them an appraisal. So we're integrating AccuTrade with UVI to be able to deliver real-time offers. But I also agree with Steve, you can't just automate that in text. You're going to have human process. Who's the champion of it? Who's going to oversee it? What's the execution? What are the KPIs? What's the scoreboard look like? How do we know if we're winning? You can't just use technology. You have to have a whole process and wrapped around it with people. And I think that's what most people are missing in the dealerships that I visit.
Fascinating, everybody. All right, last question for today. This is a lightning round. We'll start with Sarah. We'll go to Steve Greenfield, over to Ben, to Tully, and Brian will bring it home. 30 seconds or less, everybody, if you would. Last question. Are there changes coming that you feel that are not fully understood or underappreciated by the retail automotive industry? What's coming? If so, what is it that we should be aware of that's not fully understood yet by the industry? Sarah, let me start with you, and again over to Steve, and we'll go around the horn, closing up with Brian.
I'm going to summarize it in one word, and it's communication. That's the biggest piece that I think is underappreciated in the retail automotive industry, and it's something that is not fully understood. The ripple effect of how you teach your people to better communicate with your customers, how to leverage the technology, all of those pieces are going to be important changes that you have to get a handle on in your dealership now.
Well said. Steve.
Yeah, I think it's actually not a technology problem. I think it's just the fundamentals, right? I think we know what the enemy is, and typically it's our own operations. So just focus on doing the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals, making sure your employees are trained, make sure you have a vision for what the ideal experience should look like. And then and only then do you look for technology vendors to help complement that.
Love it.
All right, I'm going to just echo what Sarah said. I think she just nailed it. It is about communication.
Yeah. Amen. Tully?
I'll be a little bit more fixy on this. Yes, communication, but you know what? The problem with the OEMs, they don't realize it, is that you can't wait 5 months for a part to come in to make someone happy.
It's true. Brian, you got the last word.
And that's where over-the-air updates come in, and that's one of the technologies that's vastly misunderstood, along with AI. And I'll say it like this: those two technologies are very much like a hammer. A hammer can either be a weapon, depending on who's holding it, or it could be a tool. But you better know how to use it and use it properly, and you need to use it responsibly. And both of those technologies are like that.
Well said. I want to thank the Radical Change panel, Sarah Vantine, Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures, Ben Chodor from Call Review. Thank you. Tully Williams from the Nilo Company, and Brian Kramer from Cars Commerce, AccuTrade. The Radical Change panel, everybody, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
might have noticed that the Fixed Ops Roundtable is on the move, and that's because we are now hosting pop-up events. We are on our way to a dealership near you with spontaneous events in amazing dealership spaces to highlight the hard-working people in retail service, parts, and dealership-wide. Stay up to date with where we are headed next by following the Fixed Ops Roundtable on social media.
Severe versus normal driving. Are you a normal driver, or do you drive in severe conditions? The answer may surprise you. Many common normal driving actions, such as going to work, dropping off kids at school, or going on vacation, can all be considered severe driving by a vehicle's manufacturer. You are causing your vehicle to need additional maintenance beyond what the manufacturer suggests. If you regularly drive your vehicle in any of the following conditions: stop-and-go traffic, extreme heat or cold, fully loaded, towing a trailer or boat, engaging in frequent short commutes, driving in mountains or hills, and driving on dusty, muddy gravel or salted roads, then your vehicle needs a higher level of maintenance. Your vehicle's fluids will break down faster, and its systems will be more stressed. We offer BG Premium Maintenance Services with fluids designed to remove dirt and contaminants from your vehicle's systems and protect longer against fluid breakdown. Ask about our premium maintenance services powered by BG Fluids and Equipment today.